everyone? RPG King Kid here. Still in 100 Line Last Defense Academy. You thought it was over with the last part, didn't you? You thought it was over, but not yet. It's not over yet, Snake. It's not over yet. This is kind of a bonus video. There's nothing going on. We've done all the endings. We got some good endings. We got the last two endings in the last video. Hell, God, the last video, 6 hours long. Not the whole video. God, could you imagine if I just upload that video as the final video? It'd be like, fuck it. All 6 hours of this is like gonna be one video. That's after I already cut stuff out. Like there was some stuff that I definitely was like, okay, I can probably cut this out because I had a phone call I had to take. I had, I had to go to the bathrooms. I had to stop and cut stuff out from that. So I was like, there's stuff I'm cutting out. And it still was like 8 hours. Jesus Christ. 6 hours and 8 minutes. And I cut them all up to be around 2 hours long. Jeez Louise. Just, wow. And granted, I honestly probably could, I was like, no, I don't want a 3 hour long video. Although part of me was being like, maybe I could put these in 3 hours, but I'm not going to do that. This is not my longest playthrough in terms of parts, but this is more than likely my longest playthrough in terms of length, in terms of hours. The average part of this series, I would assume, is going to be like around an hour and 30 minutes. There were like how many parts were 2 hours? The last three were pretty much 2 hours almost. I think my longest one was like 2.5 hours, maybe even like 2 hours and 45 minutes, or did I end up cutting that one in half? I can't remember. Either way, I've had like a solid, I want to say I'd had maybe around 10 videos that were over 2 hours, which is crazy. I don't think we're going to get long for this one. Hell, I don't even see us maybe even getting to an hour on this video. We just might, because this video is a little special. This is something I kind of mentioned. God, when did I talk? I think I even mentioned this even before I finished the 0 route. Maybe I talked about this after I got my first route or my first ending, where it's like, you know what? I want to like get all the endings, and at the end of the series, I want to make a special video where I kind of like rank them. I want to rank them as, but I was like, I don't know how I was going to do it because I didn't know how the endings were set up in a way. I didn't know about rank. I knew, like, obviously when I got an ending, I was like, okay, there's routes. I didn't know how many routes there were. I knew there were 100 endings, but it's like, I'm not going to go through all 100 endings. You don't have to worry about that. You do not have to worry about that. Well, I mean, I am going to go through all 100 endings, but I'm not going to, like, I am going to go through all 100 endings, but I'm not going to do it in a way of like, okay, here's the one ending I hated the most, was this one, all the way up to my favorite one. What I'm doing is I'm going to rank the routes. I will tell you why they're in that place. We'll kind of talk about it, and I'll discuss how I felt about this in a way, and then how their endings, and I will talk about the endings, and I rank the endings. It's gonna be a little hard because I'm gonna be honest. There's 100 endings, guys. There is a whopping 100. You know what I hate? Although I'm kind of okay with that because I much prefer this music that's playing right now in the background for the game, rather than the main menu music that plays. For whatever reason, when you go to the gallery on the main menu, you only get event, video, audio, and bonding episode events. You don't get the endings. I don't understand that. That makes no sense to me if I'm being completely honest. I guess on one hand, I can kind of see that because it's a whole, but then it's the whole, like, the title screen changes once you finish 0 route. So if you go to new game, will it go back to the regular title screen when you load up that file? I don't know. That's not a here nor there thing. But there's 100 endings. That is a lot of endings. I don't remember what happened in a lot of them, or like what led to, like, I remember, like, okay, if I remember, like, oh, this is what happened, and if anything else, I could go to the chapter select as well and kind of like look at that there too. That might help me refresh some stuff. Although, to be fair, I'm pretty sure I remember a majority of them. I'm going to try my best to, like, not do too much. Actually, was there anything added in the archives after, you know, everything was done? Stand together, fall together. Okay, that was definitely added in here. So, I think that was the only thing that got added out of everything else that I didn't have. So, yeah, that's what we're going to do here. Now, if you want to... Now, here's the thing. Just because I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, like, oh, this route was my least favorite route. Here's why. The whole premise of this, blah, 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 blah. And then I'll say the endings. Be like, well, out of these endings, you know, this was my least favorite. This was my, you know, all the way up to whatever the last ending, all the way up to 1. It was really hard to think of some of these. Some of them I knew for sure. I was like, oh, this one's for sure like my least favorite, or this one's my least favorite, or that one's my second least favorite, or it's like, yeah, I kind of didn't like this one either. I'll be honest, my top 3, probably my top 5 even were, top 3 were a little easy, but then like the 2 after, I was like, well, eventually it did get to the point where it's like, okay, what routes do I have left? Well, okay, I have these 3, 4 routes left. Well, I like this route better than these 2 other routes, but I didn't like it as much as these other 2 routes. And then it's like, okay, well, then did I like this route more than the 2 routes that I didn't like about that other route? It's like, it took a while. It took a hard while to finally be like, okay, this is where like the middle was. I got like maybe, like I said, the first, my top 3, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure those are my top 3, because if you watch my playthrough, you probably will understand why. And then it's like, here's my bottom, like, my bottom 3. I mean, I'll be honest, I might, I'm looking at my list right now on my piece of paper. I might switch up my top 3, my bottom 3, now that I'm looking at it, if I'm being completely honest. You know what? Huh. Yep, I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to do it. And I think you guys... It will make sense, and I'll explain it when I get through the top 3. I'll say what the original order was. And then I'll kind of explain why. I mean, I'll explain why it's at my bottom and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I think it'll make sense. I'm putting these 3 endings in one route. I'm not counting them all as their own route. I know they technically are their own routes, which is weird. It's like there's only 1 ending per routes, and that's why there's 21 routes. But for the purpose of this video, I'm putting them all here. I mean, come the fuck on. These 2 are... It's literally, you get 1 choice. The choice gives you this ending, or the other choice gives you this ending. That's not like... That's not a route. That's not a route. I could somewhat argue this one too in a way too. It's like, okay, but it makes sense that the goodbye or farewell Edo route, whatever... That one kind of makes sense. It's like, at least there was some stuff that happened afterwards. These 2 were just... I mean, granted, yes, you did a fight or you did nothing. It was all just visual novel shit. That was all that was there. So, alrighty. So, yeah. So, there's only 19 routes in my, you know, rankings here. So, without further ado, I'm going to talk about my least favorite route. And like I said... Just me looking back at that, I was like, you know what? I probably didn't like this route the most out of all of them. And that route is, my least favorite route is the serial battles route. Not a big fan of it, if I'm being completely honest. Like, first of all, the way to go to this route is you needed to have Shion not join the party. Which right there, I was like, oh, that's probably the most suckiest choice ever out of all of it. Out of all the choices. So it's that. And then you have like, oh, why did I do that? And it's like, even like, I'll be honest, Takumi's reasoning is somewhat okay, but it's also complete bullshit. But yeah. I will say, like, and then of course we get the fight with when Edo comes as with the copy commander. And then Shion gets so fed up that he like explodes, and as a result his power and everything's weakened. And as a result, they basically bring enemies in over and over again. The good news is, so you're doing battles one after another. Sometimes you do 3 battles in a row. of days. So you'd be like let's say day 61, battle. Day 62, battle. Day 63, battle. Maybe then you get a day, but it skips days as well sometimes. Because it's like, oh, well, you go this. So it's like, and the wall of fire actually like got smaller around the school too, I think they said. Either way, like, it was weakened. The wall of fire was weakened. Shion was definitely like not in a good shape. We were like being run ragged. I think that was the final fight I did too. The final fight of this route was my last fight that I could not skip, where I had to face 2 Veshnesses. I will say that's the one thing I did like about this route was the fact that, like, and from how I played this game too, I didn't know what was going on. Because I was like, I got introduced to the Leap Machine literally in my first choices of going through it. So I knew about the Leap Machine, but it's been so long since that's been a thing that I didn't remember it when I got to this point. Because these were like I don't know, like around my 70th endings or something like that. So we were pretty, we were almost a quarter left of the game when I finally got to this point. So, like I said, the premise of the battle was commanders that we've killed were coming back. But every time we fought them, they would just disappear. So I was like, what the fuck's going on? And I'm like, I don't know what does this mean? I didn't think anything about it until the final fight where we had the 2 Veshnesses. And they explained they found that machine. I'm like, oh, they found the parallel leap machine. They found the parallel leap machine. And they were able to, like, ascertain how it worked somehow without the leap damage. Or maybe, I don't know. But either way, it was a weird thing. It also didn't work the way that it used to work. It's a whole like, oh yeah, we found this machine, and when they got done with their purpose, or they had to go back to their timeline to fulfill their purpose, they just disappeared or something like that. It's like, that's not how it works. Unless they like made it work that way, I don't know. At least that's my guess. Unless they found another machine that is never brought up anywhere else. I thought that was pretty cool. And then I think the premise of the one more time is that I believe Takumi thinks that the machine there could take him back to the start or something like that. So yeah, and then the war is over. It's like, hey, you're done. The 3 people who are dead. It's fine. Or was there? Did we do this after? This was before Karada, right? Yeah, this was before we sacrificed Karada. And it was after we got... Yeah. It was after we got Ava. And... Yeah. Either way, wherever this took place, I was like, I'm not a big fan of it. And I mean, again, this only had 2 endings, so... There's probably going to be some like, well, I didn't really like this route because, like, it's like, because that one only had 2 endings. Like, that's not the case. It's kind of like everything else about it, too. So it really sucked that, they had the whole, the battle, non-stop battles. I mean, it's literally called serial battles route. I wasn't a big fan of it, but luckily, hey, I was able to skip it. I thought this was always implemented in this game, is like being able to skip battles you've already done was something they already implemented. I mean, unless you somehow got this to be your first route, that would fucking suck. But even then, I feel like it's like, well, you're fine. There's nothing really unique about any of the fights, if I'm being honest, because you're fine. One round is just regular cam fodder, and then the next round is the commander, and then maybe round 3 is the commander again because they actually like did something or whatever. It's something like that. So it's like, it's not like it really changes anything. I understand why I actually had to do the double Veshness fights, because it was technically a new fight. I was fighting 2 Veshnesses, so it made sense as to why I couldn't skip that. But I thought that was something that was always implemented. But I guess serial battle was not, or not serial battle. I guess the skip fights that you've already done thing wasn't something that was in there right away, which really sucks for the people who got to this line before that happened. But either way, like I said, did I say which ones I like better? Well, I think I liked One More Time a little bit better than... Am I looking at this? No, never mind. Hold on. What am I looking at? Okay, I did. Yeah, okay. So I think I liked One More Time just a little bit better, just because it's kind of like showing Takumi's like he believes there's a way it could have been better than it was, and obviously there was, just not in the way we were at. And the war is over. It's like, he's like, yeah, it's fine. We can go and, be happy again. So that is why Serial Battles is my least favorite. Now, my next one might actually be a shock to some of you guys. The one I didn't like the most afterwards was the Rebellion route. And I'm going to be completely honest, I kind of did like it at first. But then when I kind of looked back at it, I'm like, you know what? Kind of sounds like shit in a way. So let me explain. So the Rebellion route is when we choose to abandon humanity. We learn the truth. We learn that we're like part Futurum, or like, we're clones. And then it's the whole like, we know that this is Futurum and all that stuff. So we decide to abandon humanity. And it's like, well, what the fuck do we do? Let's go find the Rebellion, because there's a rebellion around, that oppose Veshnes, which is great. So that's a good premise. They kind of failed in the execution of it, if I'm being completely honest. It was a whole like, we saved a kid, and it's like, hey, let's do this, and then we just want to talk and take us to your leader, and it's like, okay, well, we won't take us to your leader, but like, we just want to, we want to forge an alliance type thing. And it's like, okay. So then they go to their leader, who's Commune. Now, granted, I was lucky enough that I've already met Commune in previous timelines. The one thing, if I'm being completely honest, is like the way Commune is different in all three. Yes, you've only met her in 3 timelines, if I'm remembering correctly. I thought it was only 2, but then I remember, no way, you technically meet her in this other route. You meet her in this route. You meet her in the, the Rebellion route. You meet her in the Ava route, obviously. You meet her in the Rebellion route. Or not Rebellion route, I already mentioned that. The Killing Game route. And she's completely different in all 3 of those routes. As weird as it is, I mean, she has the same similarities. I mean, she is like a very caring, very nice person, and I really do love Commune. Commune is a great character, in my opinion. Kind of wish there was a little more of her, and I'm going to talk more about her in other timelines, obviously, when we get to like the Ava and the Killing Game route, and some other routes that she was mentioned in, but never seen. It's so weird how it's like, okay, and then it's like, hey, it's just a complete, like, full trustworthiness. Granted, there's like, I don't know, there could be a whole like, yeah, you guys didn't know the full story, so, but now that you do, you see how wrong this battle is, and you're trying to do your best to like save us on here too, but we also don't want to deal with Veshnes. So it's one of the things that I feel like it was just a lot quick thing. So like, maybe it was more so where it happened on the timeline, because I think it happened on like day 70 something like that, like very close to day 80. It was before Del Shaw first showed up, because Del Shaw first showed up when Commune was there, and she helped us take care of Del Shaw. That was it was the whole like, okay, and we never really saw anyone else in terms of the rebellion. We've only heard is like, oh, the rebellion's holding back the enemy on the other side of the wall of fire, while we take care of the ones that come through the wall of fire. And it's like, it'd be great if we could, like, even if it's just the generic, the generic person, because we saw the generic one in the Box of Blessings route, and we saw some of them in the Killing Game route too. So they had models made. They could have just had models be like, hey, like, Commune even showing up to the academy just by herself is hilarious in my opinion. She didn't have like any like form of security, any form of protection, because she is like the divine maiden. She's like their maiden, so she's like a very important figure. I mean, she's the leader of their group, for God's sake. She should have some kind of a protective group with her, so she should have like some kind of a guards, which makes this failed alliance my least favorite of the ending, because this is the one where the next choice is, hey, do you want to join the rebellion? And I'm like, well, my thought process was, we're going to say no, but it's because we do want to join you, but we don't want you to join the fight because, you're all not fighters. And then Takumi's like, no, you're not joining us because we can't fully trust you. And it's so odd how you're fully trusting us, which, don't get me wrong, that's completely logic. But then bullshit happens. Nozomi ends up dying accidentally, and all hell just breaks loose. And then it's like some nuclear fallout type thing, which is weird. I don't know if Takumi eventually joined, like, if Takumi joined the humanity that did show up, or if he's like kind of on his own, find both the Futurum and the humanities. Like, he never saw his friends. It's been years, he said, so it's weird. So it's weird. And yeah, and I believe the next ending that I did like, just want to make sure, is the one. I mean, granted, there's only 3 endings, so it's not like oh, I had to pick a one that I hated more or whatever. I actually didn't mind these 2 endings, but Seeds of Hope was the next one that I, it was my number 2. I have, 3. It was fine. I'll be honest, it's one of the things that's also it's a fucking ridiculous choice there, because Veshness blows up and just somehow shrapnel from somewhere only hits those 2 and doesn't hit anyone else, and it's like, are you fucking kidding me? It hits the 2 people that raised their death flags, or at least Commune raised her death flag, being like, hey, if something happens to me, or if something happens to Nozomi, I want you to use me to sacrifice to help or whatever. It's like, oh dear lord. So it's like, I was like, well, I know what my final choice is going to be. Something's going to happen, and the choice is save Nozomi or not, which it was. But the one thing I kind of liked about this is, honestly, this shot right here, although Takumi looks the same, which I guess, again, and I mentioned this in like the last few parts here, I guess Kadaka said that they don't age anymore after this, because that's their purpose. Their purpose was only to fight, so there's no, I guess they somehow engineered their genes and everything else about them to like never age anymore, or at least physically age. Who knows what happens afterwards? We'll never see what happens on day 101, by the way, unless like maybe a DLC will explain stuff like that. I don't know. But it was, I kind of like that Commune's voice actress did, put on like an older voice for her too, because this ending takes place 15 years after everything. So it takes place 15 years after the end of the 100 days. So of course Commune's going to grow up, and she does look a little bit older, so that was nice. I really like that. Which leads my number 1 ending that I liked was the My War. I don't know, I just like Nozomi a bit, and just to actually see her become a teacher, because that was the one thing that they all talked about was after the war, what did you want to do? It's like, and Nozomi's like, I want to be a teacher, and it's like, it's very nice, but it just seems like, this seems like the one ending where Takumi and Nozomi do end up together, and they, she becomes a teacher like she said she wanted to, and she's teaching orphans both of Futurums, and I believe she said humans too, because of the war. So that's a nice thing, and that's really nice. So yeah, that was good. And my next one that I did not like is the conspiracy ending, and I'm going to be completely honest here, or conspiracy route. I'm going to be completely honest here. Kind of similar to the rebellion route, this one had some promise of like, ooh, it could have been interesting. And granted, we knew that, well, first things first, as far as I remember, there's like, here's the one thing. I'll say this about all the endings. There's like some teases, or like there's some stuff that's talked about in other routes. Like we've had the rebellion talk in other routes, communes in other routes. We've had that. Obviously, the PLM machine is a big factor in a lot of these routes that I'm going to be talking about. So there's always something that's happened in these routes that like also connects in other routes too. This is the one route that does not connect with anything fucking else. The only thing that this connects to is nothing. Is that we know, because there's like, oh, there's an anti-Exodus group out there, which, I mean, I think they kind of mentioned that. Like, I think it was more so like there were people who were opposed to the idea, but, the majority won out and we went along with the plan or something like that, when, I believe when Sirei was giving the full explanation of the Exodus project. So there's that. And then, like, whoever the AI that took over Nego Gonk or Alan or whatever the fuck. I have aim. I have no mouth and I must scream guy. I think it's called Am. AIM. Yeah, aim. I think that's who it was. I think that's, yeah. Never brought up anywhere else. Doesn't matter. It's just the whole, literally every choice you make, there's a wrong choice, because as soon as you pick that one, it leads straight to an ending, and these endings fucking sucked, being completely honest. And it all leads, like, you know, the premise is, oh, hey, I'm part of the anti-Exodus group, and hey, I mean, yeah, they talk about the brainwashing, but that was brought up in the route that this splits off from beforehand, so that's not a big deal. So it's like, that's not a thing. It's like, oh yeah, you were all brainwashed or whatever. It's like the side effects and blah 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 blah. Here's like a note of the actual, like, even the people you care about, are they actually alive? I don't know. Here's an envelope that actually tells you some real facts or whatever. And granted, the only people who read it is the one that we know who they read it is Kurara. Kurara's the only one, I think, we actually know that, or we know what the inside of their thing is. There were others that did read it, and I think they kind of mentioned what theirs said. Just like a little bit of it anyway, not a lot. So, but it had a good bit of a promise. Like this, much like the Rebellion route, this one had some good promise too. Where I feel like Rebellion route, which, again, I feel like in Rebellion route, they kind of, like, foregone, you know, kind of, like, growing a relationship and, like, learning more about commune and, you know, kind of, like, having some kind of, like, an arc with, you know, coming together with the Rebellion group. They kind of forego that from, like, how the character development she got during the killing arc, killing game route. Which... I love that. And then, of course, she had a little bit of some character arc with the Ava route as well. And it's a little more understanding because we brought Ava back. And, you know, Ava was very sweet on us. So, Commune was like, okay, sweet on you too type thing. So, but the conspiracy route, it had the promise of, like, ooh, like, learning more about the anti-Exodus people. Didn't learn jack shit about them. And it all ended up, like, this is the most, like, despair-ridden route. Because there was no... I'll be honest, there's no route in here. I'll be honest, I did not like any of these endings. Because they all sucked. I will say this. I'm pretty sure the ending... You know what? I'll do it from the bottom as I do it before. Just a test. Fucking dumb. You said, like, oh, come on, Nego. It's like, oh, that's right, you passed. And then it's like, are you fucking serious? Empty words. That's, I believe that's the one where I said the wrong thing to Kurara. And, like, Kurara kind of, like, spurs me to join the fight again. And it's like, well, that's bullshit. Plans exposed. Where's plans exposed? That's when you went to Hiroko instead of Kurara. And she tells Sirei, and it's like, well, you're dumb. So it's whatever. Out of ideas, it's where you and Kurara don't even come up with an idea of what to do. It's either kill Sirei or think of something else. And it's like, well, what else do you have? So it's whatever. A fair point. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember why that one was a thing. I think it was just kind of like, I don't know. It's whatever. It was still dumb. 3. Where's 3? Liar? I don't know. Just again, it was the same thing with the Kurara one. I chose the option that made Nozomi to spur the fight back in me. So it's whatever. Lance to the slaughter. We're all just fucking, like, depressed. And, like, what's gonna happen? We're going to be condemned by the majority of the people who won this Exodus project, so they're probably just going to kill us all anyway. So that's probably what the thing was. That's why it's called Lands of the Slaughter. We're going to learn the truth that everything of our memories were fake. We were never real people to begin with, and then they're just going to kill us. The only reason that Faltering Resolve is my favorite is because of that screenshot right there. Sirei with 2 fucking stun batons. That's why it's my favorite. And it's like, you know what? It's hilarious. It got a little chuckle out of me. So, I like that. Now, at the start of this video, I mentioned that, like, you know what? I'm changing my bottom 3. I only changed my bottom 3. I moved the serial battle from this slot that the conspiracy route is to the bottom, and the other 2 just moved up. Because I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? Like, don't get me wrong, the other 2, and granted, this one, like, even though I just said that, like, this one had, like, nothing, as in, like, it had nothing that really ties it with any of the other routes, and the other 2 do, why was this one not my favorite? Why was this one not my least at the bottom? Because it had a lot of promise, and it was an intrigue, and it was just interesting to see all the characters, you know, in terms of like them falling into despair. I will say, now, you know, at the beginning I was also like, oh, I'm not going to say what my least favorite ending to my favorite ending is. I'm not doing that. And you can't go by me being like, oh, well, since serial battle route was your least favorite route, that's probably means it has your least favorite endings. Nope. This one has my least favorite endings because they are just nothing endings. So these, if you want me to tell you that, these are probably in my bottom. These are probably at the bottom. There's definitely some other endings as well that are way down there too. But like their route is like my 5th favorite route or my 3rd favorite route or something like that. But like there's an ending in there that's just like, what the fuck was that ending type thing. It's like, oh, that happened. For no rhyme or reason or whatever. Okay, well, I'm not a big fan of that ending and anything that happened. So, like, I'd probably put the Rebellion route, failed alliance one also down within, like, that category as well. So that would be, like, almost my top 10 right there of my least favorite endings. So, there's that. Okay, my next least favorite endings might be, I don't know if it's controversial, but I'm going to say this. The Box of Calamity route was my next one. So that's my 4th least favorite ending. The Box of Calamity route. Granted, it had an interesting premise. You know, it was more so focused on the curse aspect and some of the boxes. But the boxes weren't really, if I'm being honest, like, it makes sense why it's called the Box of Calamity route, but the box never really fucking mattered at any point. I mean, the fact that you need to get 2 of these endings in order to unlock Story Lock 1 is kind of like the most funniest thing about it. Like, that's why it's important, is because of that. But if I'm being honest, I'm still not fully understanding why I needed this ending. Why did I need to side with Gaku in order to get that ending for one of them? I don't get it. It's because of the whole exercising rant and or exercising plan. It's like, what? It made no sense to me. Not a bad ending, mind you, in terms of the premise of it. But at the same time, it just made me think, like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, it's very interesting how, like, because of this and how, again, you know what? I should have prefaced this. I'm going to spoil all these endings, or majority of them. I'm going to spoil some of these endings about what it is. I mean, of course, this is, like, technically not part 128, but this is technically part 128 of a fucking overlong series here. So if you watch this, I'm assuming, if you're watching this, I'm assuming you've at least know and have done all the endings of this game. And if you're not, well, I'm sorry. Pick this game up. It's really great. There's a demo if you're on the fence about it, so. It's just, like, it's nice that the things that we were doing for this affected Nozomi because she was possessed by the Gi. I think the only thing we actually learned from this is, like, what was inside the Boxes of Calamity. It was more of an origin story for the Gi, which is a good thing, don't get me wrong. I think the Gi plot of this game is a very interesting plot. This game kind of has, like, kind of 2 plots in a way. Plots that focus on the Gi and plots that focus on more so of like the battle and defeating Veshness is more so the main problem, or the main antagonist is Veshness. Even though we still have to face Veshness in anything that involves the Gi, but it's more like, the thing is with that is like Veshness is not the main antagonist. It's the Gi. It's everything tied with the Gi. And again, I'll bring that up in some later routes as well. It was just, again, one of those things, and I'm going to have that problem as well with the Box of Blessings route, is that a lot of the time, I think like some of the later fights, and even the dialogue during the fights, were just repeats of everything. So it was like, what the fuck? Like, I think, like, Del Shaw never, like, Del Shaw fought us the first time. He's like, oh, you guys are fucking boring me. I'm gonna leave, come back in like 5 days. You better be on your fucking top behavior, because I want to fight you at your top. We do nothing. We don't try to beat him. We don't try to think of a way to beat him. And then he comes back and he's like, oh, for the love of God, you're all just fucking worthless. I'm just gonna kill you. And then gets stopped by Ava's ghost. Which, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think we've ever actually got an answer as to what that is. I think we've had like two... We've had two, kind of like, not really confirmations, but we've had two, possibilities. One is, it's how, Takumi described it in, I think it was the Ghost Unmasked ending. It's either in that one or the Echoes of the Dead. One or the other. I can't remember. Where he's like, oh, I know what you are. Much like Shion and Ava was able to produce an avatar because of the cryptoglobin, I was able to produce an avatar as well. And you're just the manifestation of my guilt. But that doesn't make sense. Why was only Takumi able to see it and Del Shaw able to see it? Makes no sense. Unless I'm missing something. Just, if I'm missing anything, if there's anything I'm missing about some of these endings, let me know, please, because I love this to be a very big discussion, common heavy discussion video as well, if that'd be great. So, yeah. So, if I missed anything about the ghost, and granted, I mean, to be fair, this was my second to last route I did, so it's not the freshest in my mind, but it should be like one of the freshest ones I've had. But it's like, that's kind of another thing too, is like the endings didn't really, you know, stick with me. A couple of them did in here, don't get me wrong, they did. But like, if I'm being honest, I'm like, I have no idea what happens in these two endings. I'm like, Echoes of the Dead, I think we just end up dying. Same with One Step Ahead. I think Echoes of the Dead is where we learned it's the Gi. Like, there's something tied to the Gi in one of these endings where it's like, that's right, it's you, or that's right, it's me, or whatever. But it's like, it's the Gi fucking with us in a way, and that's why like Takumi is possessed by the Gi and or whatever. Or maybe it's Nozomi killing him. I don't know, because Nozomi's possessed by the Gi in some of these. And I think what was it? Echoes, I think, yeah. I think these four endings are ones that do, or maybe it's just these two. I honestly don't remember. I know for sure, I think in these two, because Nozomi's dead in these two. And I think Nozomi's dead in these as well. I don't remember. 39 and 40. Let's go look at that. 39 and 40. Box of Calamity route, 39 and 40. That's 37, 38. Yeah, so 37, 38, 39. 39. Nozomi is dead. 40, she is not dead, but that is a... What the fuck happened there that we're all alive? What? I don't remember what happened here where we're all alive. Oh, is this... I think this is the one where I go mad. Like, there is a route where Takumi goes mad, and I think he just sees everyone alive again. Oh, no, never mind. So, yeah, okay, so, yeah. Nozomi's possessed here. And our choice is, was Ava an evil spirit? Yes. Okay, Nozomi kills us, and we're all possessed by Gis. We're all, you know, the Gis possessed by the dead, the ones that possess the dead. We say no. We notice that Nozomi's gonna kill us, but then we kill her instead. I don't think anyone else dies after Nozomi, right? I guess not. Honestly, don't remember what happens at the end of that. I can't remember. But I guess, yeah, that's what happens there. That's right. That's what happens there. I completely forgot about that. So, yeah, that's another thing, and thank God that, you know, we have that to look at back to. It was fine. Like, I didn't mind it, if I'm being honest. It was a pretty decent one, but out of the two boxes one, I didn't like this one the most, just because it was like, whatever. But again, it played into the Gi. It was the Gi origin route, which is interesting. Box of Calamity. My least favorite, although if I'm being honest, I didn't really mind it, is the Misguided Pity one. That's where we choose not to reveal who we know that was killing everyone. And we knew it was Nozomi because of, you know, this one, because I actually got this ending first. And then I got to the, like, yeah, the route to, like, the final choice leads you, either leads you here or leads you to this right here. Or not the final choice, but the choice before the final choice. It's like, so you got this choice. What the next choice either leads you to this ending, or the next choice leads you to, or that choice leads you to either the choice that gives you these endings. And there's other, you know, hints, like when Nozomi kills us in those things, she's like, I want to eat a frog and all that stuff. So there's hints that Nozomi was possessed by a Gi. So it's something that we knew. But it's still like one of those things like, I don't know, I just didn't really like it that much. Not that there's anything wrong with it. One step at a time. I don't even remember what happens here, if I'm being honest. Like, did we survive and we're just going? I guess. I think that's just what happens. It's not that big of a deal, but it's like, very curious thing. Echoes of the Dead. I mean, I kind of liked it, you know. I like the whole premise of, you know, we're technically zombies being possessed by the Gis and all that stuff, with Nozomi as the Queen Gi, so, which is pretty interesting. So, I mean, to be fair, I literally just remember that now, and I was like, I don't remember what any of these endings were. Like, I'll be honest, besides the Misguided Pity, and let's see, yeah, I don't remember what happens in these two endings. I didn't remember what happened in these endings up here. I think Ghost Unmasked was the one where I was like, oh yeah, I think that's the one where Takumi realizes that, or Takumi thinks that the spirit is the avatar of his guilt. Blood on My Hands, I think Takumi just ends up getting possessed by the Gi, or he's possessed by, I mean, I think he's possessed by the Gi in both of these, but it's not a big deal. Which, by the way, Blood's, actually, no, it's not. Ghost Unmasked was the next one after Echoes of the Dead. So Ghost Unmasked. Oh, actually, yeah, right here. So we had Ghost Unmasked and then Blood on My Hands. So yeah, that was the right thing. Number 3, even though I'll be honest, I still don't understand why we needed this ending. Out of all the endings, I totally get why we needed Hollow Victory. I don't get why we need Exorcist Plan. Is it just because that's where we learned about like all these techniques and stuff about it, which kind of did have an effect on Nozomi because she was the one possessed by the Gi. So it wasn't bad, but it was a very head scratcher. I did like the fact that, you know, you know, this one kind of gave a shine to Gaku in a way. It's kind of funny how Gaku got his shine in both of the box routes, at least in part of ways, even though he's kind of an annoyance like that. I should have preferenced that too in a way. Zero Battle didn't really have a focus on anyone. Rebellion kind of had a little bit of a focus on Nozomi as she is as a person, especially with Commune, which is something that I learned in another route. That was like, oh, her and Commune just have a nice connection. And granted, their connections are different in those two routes, but it's nice to see that it's something that carried over. Conspiracy kind of somewhat focused on Karada in a way. It basically feels like, hey, Karada, you're going to learn part of the truth in a way. Here you go. But then it's like, fuck Darumi and Kyoishika in a way like that. So, but yeah, Box of Calamity route is like, not terrible, but not that great either. Or this ending, so. And then my second ending was Hollow Victory. Totally, I actually kind of like that way. So it was a very interesting way of how we got to, because like I said, it feels like something's crawling on me. How we got to that ending is straight up like, oh, we have to, you know, do we know who the killer is? It's not you or Hirako, so it's either Tsubasa or Nozomi. It's like, well, we know it's not Tsubasa because she would just had Sirei and Nigo do it if it was. But yeah. Granted, I will be honest, that flaw, I'll be honest, I wasn't too big of a fan of that final choice. I would have actually preferred it if the final choice was who is the killer and it's between Tsubasa and Nozomi. I somewhat get why they picked what they picked, but it's still like one of those things where it's like, I think it would have been a little more interesting if that was the choice. But then I feel like Hiroko would be like, what the fuck, you're stupid. Granted, she's like, what the fuck are you doing? You're stupid for not revealing who it is. So, either way. And then my favorite ending is the Night of Despair, just because of like, the fucking balls for them is like, oh, I'm going to attack the shadow. Because like, of course I'm not going to look back. Someone's yelling my name. I'm like, no, that'll take time. And Nozomi's going to die. I'm going to attack the shadow. Oh no, I go into a coma all the way to like day 100 when this choice is like on day 20 something. Or yeah, I think like 25 or 26. So then I go into a coma, skip all the way to day 100, find Hiroko, and she's like, yeah, she's been killing us. And it's the birth of Kakoji in a way. Kakoji becomes a major player in some of the other routes, which is great. Kakoji is Kako possessed by a gi. So I really like that. And I really like that. And just it's also one of the things where I'm like, again, it's one of the things where it's like, just the way that Kako was acting too, is like, okay, you're not right. And granted, how I've already learned about like gi possessions and stuff, so I'm like, oh, she's possessed by a gi. So it's like, oh, she's the one that's killing everyone, which of course it is. She was the only one I never found her body for when I woke up from this coma. I think I've literally found everyone else's body save for hers. And then, yeah, that's what happened. And I'm glad that they showed you who it is. Unlike in an ending in another route, but I totally get why they didn't. Nozomi saw a killer in a route and it's like, oh, it's you. And then, but we as the players didn't know about until much later on. And I'll get to that when we get to those routes. So I didn't like it, or I didn't mind it, but like I did really like this ending a lot. So that was good. My next least favorite one, which is number 15 for you following at home, will have to be the comedy route. I totally get why the comedy route exists. When you are writing 100 endings, and granted, if I'm being completely honest, Conspiracy is definitely one of those endings where I feel like they just wanted to definitely one of those routes where they were padding the fuck out of the endings. Comedy route is definitely one of the things like, you know what? Let's just put in ridiculous shit. There's no rhyme or reason for it. Let's just put shit in there. I would totally hate this to be anyone's first route. But to be fair, how you get to the comedy route is, I feel like, something that would not happen. You have to kill Ado. You have to leave the school, because your next choice is either leave the school or stay at the school. You have to leave the school. And then the next choice is either fight back or dodge an attack with the chainsaw person. Chainsaw person in a suit, who we learn is Takumi in another timeline. And if you dodge the attack, you know, you get out of the way and you pick up the chainsaw and go after him, and it continues on either the mystery or the hunt route. We're not hunting. That's the, I think that was mystery, or does that go the mystery? I don't remember. It's either it continues mystery or it continues slasher route. I think it's slasher route. But then if you attack them, then the Takumi dies, and then it's like, oh, everything's hunky-dory now. Because whatever. So then you're in comedy route. So it's definitely one of those things where I don't know if anyone could I mean, you could stumble. I don't want to say it's like, oh, it's impossible for this to be your first ending route, but it's like, it could be. Very well could be. I didn't mind it. You know, again, I'm totally fine with how hilarious some of them were great. I will be honest, though, some of the stuff is like, it makes no fucking sense. Like, why the I mean, it gave me, I'll be honest, it gave probably the most funniest choice, either meat or fish, but somehow picking, what was it, fish? Or no, I think picking meat resulted in Gaku playing these stupid pranks on me, but picking fish didn't. But I'll be honest, picking fish led to even something more stupid, if I'm being honest. Which leads me to my first ending that I did not like, and that is the Mother Ocean. What the fuck was the whole putting the fish thing on? Like, I'll be honest, that made no sense whatsoever. I'm like, I totally don't get it. If I'm being honest, too, majority of the endings between my, like, you could probably mix and match the other endings of here, if I'm being honest. But Mother Ocean was just, for sure, my least favorite. As soon as I got that, I was like, yeah, that's fine, one of my least favorites. I probably would move this one to my bottom as well in terms of endings, but I'd probably move some of the comedy ones higher up. So, here's that. What was number 7? I believe number 7 in the comedy route was stupidest ending ever. Just because of how on the nose they were with it. So, but yeah, again, it's just one of those weird things where it's like the laughing one. Like, you did laughing stuff, and it's like, I don't know, it was weird. Same with this one. The, which I believe is my next one, is the all worked out one. I mean, it was literally how you get these endings was you throw Sirei at the missiles or you jump on the missiles yourself. So, very dumb, but, you know, I totally get why it is there. Did I not put number 5 down? Or was that number 5? Oh, I accidentally put 2 and 3 in 2 spots. Whoops. Okay, I will put that as 4, and I'll put that as 3. Actually, no, not 3. I'll put that as 4, and there's 5. There we go. My 5th one was the... Actually, no, I was right the first time. Hold on. Sorry about that. I'm a professional. My 5th ending that I didn't like, or I guess however or you want to say it, is the burnt out one. How we got to this ending, and this ending as well, the OKIC, was I can't, like, I kind of like the build up to it, about the fact that, like, Tsubasa developed, like, a massage machine that, like, hit all of our tension points or whatever, and it makes us feel invincible. It gets us all hyped up, but it also makes us crash or we lose memories of what happens to it. And Takumi still felt the high, and he's basically like, it's kind of like it's an allegory for drugs, I'm being honest, in a way where it's like, hey, I'm all confident and all that stuff, and then it's like, oh. And the fact that, like, because Takumi found, like, a device that he got gaslit into thinking it's a device that when you point at people, it shows how high they think of you. And it's like, what? When we know that's not the case, and he never asked Tsubasa, and when he goes try to ask Tsubasa, Gaku steals him and takes him away and spends 10 days to talk about the importance of Yuri and anime. Like, what? Like, there's just so much ridiculous bullshit that goes on in this route. It's hilarious, but it's also like, what the fuck? Which, again, is I'd feel so bad if this was anyone's first route. Burnt out. Where was it? Burnt out. Yeah, that was it. And then OKIC is like, he's like, oh, and then the choice is like, oh, do you want to take the drug to go talk to Nozomi, or do you not want to take the drug because it's the final day or whatever? So, or not the drug. Do you want to take the massage or whatever? So the burnout one is where he takes the massage. He's all confident again. He confesses to Nozomi, and Nozomi's like, hey, whatever. I don't like you this way because this isn't you. And he's like, well, how do you feel about me now? I was like, well, if I'm being honest, I'd say a fat 0, which is like, you know, the thing on the device. The OKIC is where we learn what the device is. It's the device that measures your sleep, your tiredness or whatever. And Nozomi, like, the 0 is a perfect score. So, that's what that was. So, yeah. That is exactly what happened. So, the ultimate slapstick was my third one. I don't know. It's like, you know, it wasn't terrible bad. I mean, I guess he did the most funniest thing. Feel bad that everyone, you know, abandoned him. This one and the At My Limit is, again, another weird thing where Takumi has like a smartass disease where it's like he can't be much of a smartass and he can't even think of being a smartass. Otherwise, he has like a 3% chance of exploding, which is whatever. But if he hangs out with people, they start being clowns, and it's like they start doing ridiculous things, like start doing rap battles, thinking you're food, doing other stuff. I can't remember some of the other stuff that happened. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to be a clown for you guys, and I'm going to do stuff too now. And that's what this was. Which was like, okay. The No, That's Wrong one, this is where we make something up as to why Darumi started having a fish on her head and everyone else started having fish on their heads. The polar opposite of this one, which is like, nope, I didn't solve it is. And it all just turns out to be like, you know, bullshit, which is like, what the fuck? And everyone's like saying like, we know it's not that. But even beforehand, like someone told us like, just make something up. It'll be fine. I say that the reason why it's also my second one is because it's a Danganronpa reference, obviously, but no, that's wrong. And my favorite is At My Limit because of the rant that he has with you're all a bunch of clowns and all that stuff, which I found hilarious. It's a blessing and a curse to play games on YouTube for you guys. But it also sucks because I got somewhat spoiled on that rant. A little bit. I never heard it fully. But, you know, it's a whole thing on Twitter and all that stuff. Which, granted, yes, there's ways I could block that. But I'm like, I don't want to do that. So, but yeah. Yeah. So there's that one. The next one I did not like is the casual route. Where the fuck are you? You're up here, aren't you? Yeah, the casual route. It's not... I mean, it is bad. Just because of, like, the situation, how you get there. I totally get why. Because you get to the choice of, you know, it's... Do you let Hirako destroy Nigo or do you not? Well, you'd be like, oh, I don't want you to destroy Nigo because Sirei will blow you up or whatever. And then it turns into a whole, like... No, see, I know Sirei brainwashed you. And then somehow Sirei is able to tase Takumi, Hirako, Yugamu, Tekamaru. I think Kurado was there as well, and Ava. Like, he was able to hit 6 people with a taser somehow. Unless I think he threw a smoke bomb or a stun grenade too or something. I don't remember. And then it's like, oh, we're just now in the recesses of my mind. Which, don't get me wrong, it's like bullshit. There's battles, but like they don't really matter too much in this route. This route is more so of like somewhat of learning about the characters in a way. You have Tekamaru doing, you know, trying to play cards better. You have this whole thing with Gaku from the start. It's like, hey, the whole milk thing. And it's like, what? And then I can't remember what the other thing is. Oh, yeah. Then you have, like, Takumi, like, contemplating life with Ado for a bit. So it's whatever. But then you, like, realize that, like, oh, shit. This is just the delusions in my mind. And it's all bad. Actually, this isn't this isn't what's going on right now. This is kind of, like, it gives you a little taste of, like, this is probably what Ava is going through. Where in her mind, she's thinking of some good stuff. Like, you know, just, you know, living with commune and all that stuff. But then, as it starts to break down, she realizes that's not real and all that stuff. So, that's kind of like a nice premise. It's like, we get a little bit of an insight as to how Ava sees things now. So, which is pretty good. If I'd have to go with, again, there's only 2 endings, and I believe the one I liked the least out of these 2 was... Where is it? Can't find it. I mean, there's only 4 pages, so you would think I'd find it at some point. Embrace fantasy. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of, like, you know, running away from the reality aspect of it. Although I think it's, you know, it's a nice little, like, fucking Last Supper picture we have up here, and Edo sitting in the Judas seat. So that's a nice little, you know, thing there. And then the, you know, face reality. Like, even though we knew we were going to die, like, that was our choice. It was like, you're going to die no matter what. So do you want to die right away or live out in a fantasy where you can grow up in old age and all that other stuff? So, but I kind of like that too. Plus, like, this is actually a pretty cool picture with those two as well. So yeah. My next least favorite one, actually, I think we're starting to get the ones where I start to like these routes or whatever, is the Cult of Takumi route. It's hilarious. I'm going to say that right off. It's hilarious, but it's super uncomfortable. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it starts off somewhat tame, but then once we get Edo into the group and then we're all being like, okay, we're all going to be very close together. We're all fighting for Takumi and all that stuff. And then, you know, eventually you get rid of Sirei. But it's a whole, like, rewards. And the rewards keep getting higher and higher. Although, like I said, they start off tame for, like, the first 3, I think. Because Tsubasa's is the tamest. She just stands in the room and talks to me, saying how much she loves me and all that stuff. Kurara's is cuddling in bed and I think even sleeping together. I can't remember. I think that's when Edo started taking over, was after the Kurara one. I know Gaku came in and, like, started breaking the rules and all that stuff, but I can't remember who or what. Or I don't remember afterwards. It might have been Shoma, because I think we did the sauna one before the oil massage, which is what Hiroko did. And then, you know, it just got higher from there. Like, Koishika washing our backs, Yugamu performing surgery on himself, Ava dressing up as a cake, which is censored in this game and sucks. It doesn't look too bad. It's just whipped cream and cherries on her nipples and everything. And, you know, that's definitely the most wildest one. But then eventually Takumi starts getting into it. And he's like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do that. But that's... And then you get to the one choice in the route where it's like Nozomi, who's not affected by the drug because of her weak cryptoglobin, is like, hey, let's get you back to normal. And you pick the one to go back to normal. They make a drug that paralyzes you, and you just basically is a living doll, or a living idol as the route is called. And you get this. That's honestly not the... This isn't bad, which this is also censored, by the way, as you can tell. What's really bad about this is the fact that, like, everyone starts hitting Nozomi. They go turn one by one just by hitting Nozomi until she is dead. That image right there is probably the most disturbing, like, thought about this entire route. Granted, yes, the fact of Takumi being so into it that he kind of does this to finally be with Nozomi. And then he says the line of, I don't need Karua, I have Nozomi. Nozomi is a good replacement for her. It's like, what the fuck? So, like, yeah, it's a very uncomfortable route, so. And I kind of already told you my 2 endings right there. This was my least favorite one just because, again, of Nozomi dying in such a fucking brutal way. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a great ending either, but of the 2, I'd rather have this ending. You know, at least here I'm able to walk around, talk, and say shit. Here I'm literally laying down and can't do fuck all. So, the cursed yaoi lives in this one. But yeah, wasn't bad, I'd say. My next one is the multiple Edo routes. I actually like this one. If I'm being honest, this is a pretty decent route. Although, it's one of the things where it's like, well, this is where on the second scenario route, we decide to kill Edo. But he takes over. Why? Well, it's a whole like, well, you've already taken his crypto globe in one other timeline, but then why isn't that the case in the choice where we do kill him already? Well, it's like, technically, there's a route where there's something that happens there. But this one's more so of, like, Edo willingly gave his crypto globe into us, which we have learned in some of the routes. I know we learned that in the coming of age route. I think it was something, yeah, it was also mentioned in the rebellion route, where it's the whole, like, if the person willingly gives their crypto globe in, it gets stronger, which I think is also a premise that will happen in another route that we'll be talking about very shortly here. So since Edo willingly gave his crypto globe in, his influence kind of started taking over, and also on top of the fact that Takumi has already absorbed a part of Edo. I actually really like this, you know, the whole fact, like, it was also a very short route too, if you think about it, because it was like, oh yeah, in like 4 days, 5 days, I'll probably take over your body. And then it's like, but don't worry, I'll make a game. Because Takumi sees everyone as Edo. Takumi inherited Edo's cognitive disability. And as a result, he sees everyone and hears everyone as Edo. And also as a result of Edo taking over, he can manipulate Takumi's what Takumi sees and what Takumi hears. So you know, Edo makes a game about like, oh yeah, everyone looks like Edo, but there's an extra Edo. If you can find that Edo, you know, I'll leave or whatever. But it's an impossible game to win, which is something that Takumi realizes at some point. Which is great. But then the fact, like, then you get to your choices, and then it's so hilarious about. So you get to the choice of like, do you know where my where the fake or where the projection Edo is? And your choice is either yes or no. And then if you pick no, you have your next choice is either saying I lose or you win, which is like, oh, they're the same thing, but not necessarily. Just how the route fixes, I believe it's these two. Yeah, these are the two endings that result in picking I lose or you win. I can't remember. I think this one is a result of saying I win, because I think that's where Takumi's like, yeah, well, okay, I've beaten you countless times and you got your one victory over me, which is hilarious. And this is the one by saying I lose. And then, you know, Takumi's gonna go on his way to, you know, talk to Sirei and be like, you know what, I don't care. I'd rather die than to, you know, live like this. But then, as a result, that's what happens. Like, Takumi, or Edo is still in his mind, but I don't think he's as controlled. But, like, he'll always see everyone, even himself, as Edo, which is fucking sick. And that's kind of and that's why this is my least favorite ending. Again, I don't want to say least favorite, but this is the bottom. Again, this is a route that has 4 endings, so of course, you know, there has to be a last one. So you have this one, a tragic end. Again, so how you get this one is by saying, oh, I know where the fake Edo is. I mean, they're all fake, but like the non-Edo, he's in your room because no one's been there, and it reaches and it falls into the same category of our criteria that we've had for the game that you've made up. And he goes there and he meets an Edo, but it wasn't a fake Edo, because at some point, as Takumi's trying to figure out who's who, he like gives everyone a number, but Edo makes it so he looks like he's, you know, writing different numbers, but he's actually been writing the same number. And on some of those notes, he wrote down like, hey, on this day, come to Edo's room and I'll explain everything. So when he got there, there was an Edo there, but then another Edo shows up, and then it happened. So then that's when Takumi starts going mad, and then your final choice is either embrace the hate, which is what Edo wanted. Edo wanted you to get into your murderous instinct. He wanted you to become the monster that he sees you all as. Or let the hate go. It's either embrace the hate or let it go. This is what you do when you let it go. 3 of the Eidos come. It's so weird. They make it seem like before you get to the choice here, you kill 2 Eidos. But then you go, because you killed 2 Eidos in Eido's room. And then before you get to the choice, they make it seem like Takumi goes on a killing spree already. And then you get to the choice. But then you get here and there's like, well, why are there dead bodies here? And I don't think they ever mentioned there's any other dead bodies anywhere else. So they get here and it's like, oh, and then Takumi's like, hey, you guys got to kill me. Eido's taking over and all that stuff. And they do. So it's pretty cool. But it's just a weird thing how it's like, they make it seem like Takumi's killed more than the 2 in the Eido room. But yet there's here. So, I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. The endurance match one is hilarious. Not really hilarious, but like, again, this is what happens when, I believe, where Takumi says I or you win. And, you know, he does the whole like, oh, you've had 1 victory over me when I've had hundreds over you. And it's like, now we're going to play one final game. And before he tested to make sure that Eido could feel the pain. So then Takumi just keeps killing himself over and over and over again. Basically to be like, okay, whoever gives out loses. And that's basically the whole fact of it. And of course, you know, he's killing himself. He's jumping off this roof. He's doing so many different ways to kill himself. And like his teammates, his friends keep seeing him and trying to stop him. And they're like, why is he doing this? Like, what happened during the last enemy attack? It's like, was there an attack? Was there anything that happened to Takumi? And there's like, wait, there was, which I'm pretty sure it was Hiroko who figured that out. Was that he was the only one that absorbed Eido. So maybe it's something to do with Eido taking over him or something like that. And then you go and jump and like you get this scene right here where they're all cheering for you to jump and all that stuff. But yeah, so then in the end, you actually don't win. Even though it seems like you win, but Eido takes over. Which is wow. Which again, there's no... Basically, similar to the casualty routes. And I mean, even also the... what other routes? Did I say Box of Calamity? There was another route where I said, like, there's no good ending. I know the conspiracy one was like that, too. But, yeah, there's no good ending on this. But even though it's, like, there's no good ending. There's no good ending on this one, too. But for completely different reasons of the casualty one. Well, not casualty, conspiracy one. Because conspiracy is like there's no good endings just because they all suck and such. Because you're either getting tased or you're about to be tased or you're getting blown up. So, but this one's bad because there's no good ends, and this one's because like no matter what, Eido is either proven right or takes over. So yeah, or you die. So, and of course my favorite one is the Eternal Hate one. Just because of how fucking crazy it is. It reminds me so much of in Arkham Knight, Batman Arkham Knight, where Joker shows up and he's kind of like trying to have Batman, you know, start doing evil stuff. So I really like that. So it was a really good ending there. The next route that I don't want to say, you know, this is route 11 or my 11th out of my 19 routes, is the Ava route. It was a really nice route, and it really gave us more insight into Ava. And I really did like it. I'm not a big fan of, honestly, how low I have it, but looking at all the other ones, I'm like, yeah, I kind of like these ones a little bit better. Or I like these ones more in, like, one aspect or another. But, like, the Ava routes being here, again, I really like the fact that, you know, it's the choice of, do you kill Ava, the second choice of do you let Shoma kill Ava or do you protect Ava? Well, this is what happens when you protect Ava. She kills Shoma and absorbs his cryptoglobin. Then, you know, they lock her up and the brainwashing starts coming off. And Takumi's like, there has to be a way I can free you. Sirei wakes up, or Tsubasa fixes Sirei and just goes, you know, batshit. And eventually Takumi and Ava both run away. And they find the village where Commune's at. And this is our second time meeting Commune. And we get a little bit of a more personality. We actually talk to her a little bit more as opposed to the rebellion route. And it's still nice. But then the final choice is, do you go to the final battle, or do you go to the final battle, or do you not go to the final battle with Veshness? Do you help your friends or not help your friends? And that's what leads us here. My least favorite one, again, there's only two, is the thank you one. Even though it's really great, if I'm being completely honest, as you can tell by this screenshot, Ava dies in it, and it's like, oh, that sucks. But the fact that, like, she's able to hold her own against Veshness in the fight is great. And I think one of the reasons why is because once Shoma realized that Ava killed him, he started giving his crypto globin willingly to Ava. And that's why Ava was able to, like, build up a higher endurance and get stronger, is because of Shoma. Which I think is a really cool touch to the... to that, and it's really nice. Which leads me to my favorite one being the Wanderer one, where I choose not to go to the fight, and then, you know, shit happens. Veshness is overlord. They're still rebellion, but they're all running away. Ava's like naked under there for whatever reason, not wearing pants, but she's pregnant too. So, hey, way to go. Takumi, as far as we know, is the only Kadaka character that's canonically has had sex. Yes, canonically, because all of these routes are canon, as we will learn in one of these other routes. So there you go. Takumi is the first and so far only. Well, actually, hold on, let me think. There's no, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case. He's the only Kadaka main character that has canonically had sex. So yay. So, yeah. Again, like the Ava route, it was pretty cool. Good premise as well. So, can't complain too much about it if I'm being completely honest. So there's that. The next route, number 10, is the romance route. Funny enough, this was my first route too. Aw, it grows up so fast. Yeah, so how you get here is you spare Ado, you don't reveal your secret, and you try to kiss Hiroko on day 9. As a result of trying to kiss Hiroko, you both fall down, and you split your head, and some bullshit happened with Rival Mag, so you lost your memories from previous days, where I believe Takumi forgot that he came from the future. But during that time, Takumi was like, oh, he had a dream of kissing Kurara, Koishika, and Tsubasa. You know what's really funny? Looking at that like that, it's so hilarious how like these two are pretty much the same. Just like replace. I mean, yeah, the background's obviously different, but I mean the character models, they're pretty much the same, except like Takumi's is the same one except like where his arm's at. But then you get the Tsubasa one where they're close like that, and it's hilarious. I actually really like this route. I wasn't too upset that this was my first route. I was like, you know what? I'm okay with that. It was great. Just because this was a nice slice of life one, where this was another one where the battles didn't really matter. And although there wasn't really anything too important on this route, I kind of forgot that I was talking about that. Let me go back to the first routes there. So yeah, Conspiracy had nothing. Box of Calamity, you know, had the geese, so that was very important in other ones. Comedy is another route that like nothing is really brought up in any of the other routes that happen there, because literally it's all bullshit that happens there, so that's not a big deal. Casual, more brainwashing stuff, but again, that's something that we were kind of privy to in the second scenario line before that choice, and I believe that's something we get privy to in other routes too. At least I remember being privy to it in previous routes because of Actually, I think it was Cult of Takumi, because I think I got Cult of Takumi route before that. So, again, me personally, I was already privy to it, so it's not that big of a deal, but more of the brainwashing, so that makes sense. Cult of Takumi, a little bit of the brainwashing, like I said. You did get a little bit of a hint about you were made for fighting, because Sirei said that before. Ultimately, Sirei got destroyed to Takumi, because he wanted Takumi to be like, hey, you gotta tell him that this is for humanity or whatever. You know, even though he was all for the idea of, you know, me being a cult leader, until finally it was like, oh shit, they're not fighting for humanity anymore, they're fighting for you. So then he kind of like let it go. That's like, you were made for fighting type thing. So it's like, what? So that's a nice little thing there. Multiple Eidos, I guess they kind of talked about the whole willingness to give your crypto globin, which Rebellion did that too in a way. So there's that. Ava didn't really have anything either. I mean, it had Commune again, and it showed how much of a badass Ava was. Romance didn't really have anything, but it was still pretty nice, you know. Again, it was a very slice of life kind of route. So yeah, the premise is Takumi has a dream of kissing these 3 girls. They've also had a dream where they kissed him, and then it's a whole like, okay, what are they gonna do? Well, then Moko is like, hey, for these last 25 days, Takumi's gonna hang out with one person for 25 days. He'll tell you his feelings afterwards, and if he says no, then the next person goes. Same premise and all that stuff. Pretty nice thing. There's a nice little thing there. So, of course, all these endings, if you pick that, like, yes, you did like this character, it led to an ending. So, of course, if you said no to everyone, you got to get to day 100. So, how I feel is my least favorite ending, just because, I don't know, it's a weird one, because this is like, during the entire time he's on the dates with the other girls, I do like the fact too that the girls all had different ideas of dates, even though it's like, okay, it's weird or whatever, and I'll get to them when I get to actually talking about them. Every now and then he's like always mentioning that, like, oh, but I actually like Nozomi. But wait, do I actually like Nozomi, or do I like Nozomi because she reminds me of Karuha? So it's one of that thing. So then at the end, you know, Moko acts as like the mediator of this game. I can't remember if I said that or not. And she mentions how, like, hey, you know, if you like Nozomi, maybe you should go talk to her. And that's what happens here, which is nice. So it's like, you know, I can't really complain too much about it. So it's still nice. But yeah. My second least favorite one is this one. Even though I think it's hilarious, because I can't remember the exact way it gets here. I think he doesn't go ask Nozomi, or I can't exactly remember, but like, he's just upset about it, and Moko comforts him, and then she's like, maybe you could fall in love with me too, which is very cute and sweet, by the way. So I really like that. My next one is the graduation day one. It's kind of like a whole, like, hey, I do want to, like, you know, get to know you guys again, but like, now that we'll be on the satellite, we can do it, you know, normally. You know, we don't have to do it as something like this. It's something we can do as a way of thinking of it. So I know originally I did have this as something different as my 6th one, but the way as I was thinking back on it, I'm like, you know what? It actually makes more sense that this one's actually my favorite ending. So this one's my favorite ending. Again, as weird as that is, but I will explain why it's my favorite ending in a bit here, when we get there. Just because. So I liked it. It was still a nice ending. Don't get me wrong. It was still nice, but this one's like, okay, so graduation day. Then the one I didn't like the most, or not, you know, the one after that is the Dream Come True, question mark, which is hilarious that Kurata gets 2 endings, but it kind of makes sense. It's like, do you remove her tomato head or do you not? Well, this is what happens if you don't remove the tomato head. So during the entire time of Kurata's date, our dates were watching movies, and then like, yeah, eventually, you know, we got to the part where we kind of started to be like, maybe Takumi is developing feelings for her and all that stuff. So yeah, they're still nice. And then the one after that is the Kurata one. Again, not bad. I do like it because they actually kiss like this. I mean, there was a scene where they kissed beforehand, either way, but still, it's still nice. I do like, you know, it does show like kind of like a different side to all these characters too for this route. So, and I kind of like appreciate that for this route. The next one is the Kyoshika ending. During the dates with Koishika, we were kind of like doing swordsman fighting. We also went on a picnic because that's something she always wanted to do. And eventually, like, we had a match, and I started, Takumi started hearing the Holy Jumanji sword, which was hilarious. And it was just great. And as a result, he was able to beat her. And there's a fucking Dragon Ball reference in here as well, which I fucking loved. Oh, it was great. So, I love that. And Koishika is definitely one of my favorite characters too, so I like that. And then my second favorite is the Tsubasa one. Tsubasa's probably my favorite girl. If I'm being honest, it's Tsubasa, Hirako, and probably Koishika. Darumi is number 4, maybe. Nozomi's number 5. That's probably how it's going to be as my rankings, as my top 5 best girls, best waifus of this game. Tsubasa's her dates was like tinkering around with stuff in the garage, maybe making something. Takumi's making a clock. Tsubasa was making some kind of an engine thing, like a rocket engine, I believe it was. And you know, it was still nice and all that stuff. And like I said, Tsubasa's great. I will also point out the fact that like there were some great CGs on where I rejected them. The one with Kurata was Moko and Kurata eating spicy foods. Although at the end, Kurata got sad and she like asked Moko to leave her alone so she could cry, which was very upsetting. Koishika was like kind of like one at a bar with Moko as the bartender and Kurata there to help her out. And then rejecting Tsubasa resulted in like Kurata and Koishika giving her a massage, which was fantastically funny. So, but my favorite ending of the romance route is living the dream, because you get like asked like 3 questions at the end that, you know, split off the stuff, and one of them is like, well, who do you want to date? And one of them is all of them. And then of course he goes to talk to them, or it's like he's saying this thing, and then it's like, oh, all 3 of them walk in there. And it's like, yes, that's how we feel. So I'm like, hell yeah, this is the fucking Xenoblade 2 ending. This is the Rex ending. But then, we wake up that Moko knocked our shit in. She's like, how dare you fucking say that? And how dare you try to play women like that? It's hilarious. Don't get me wrong. And for that reason, that's why this one's my favorite ending of the romance route, is because of that. Whew, we are getting close here. We are on number 9 now, which is, and I'll be honest, I hate the fact that this one's here. It's the Veshness route. I really like the Veshness route. Kind of very somewhat similar to the Rebellion route in a way. It had great potential. And don't get me wrong, it's still great. But how I feel like there could have been more that happened there. How you get here is when it's time to pick someone to sacrifice to defeat Veshness, you pick Tsubasa, which of that choice, this was my first one because I had the romance route and I had another route that was a very Tsubasa focused one. So like, okay, so there's Tsubasa. But Tsubasa doesn't actually blow up the Undying Flame Bomb. And as a result, they were able, the Veshnes was able to take control of the school. But instead of killing us like I thought she was going to do, she kept us prisoner, and we started to like learn more about the commanders. We learned more about Veshnes. There's just so many great scenes in here. There's a point where Veshnes builds a bed, or brings the bed into the leisure lounge, because Takumi's being held in the leisure lounge. And she's like, oh, you can sleep on this bed. And there's a sexual tension that happens between the two, as you can see here too, as you see that they're together. It's crazy how like there's a way that we actually kind of start thawing Veshnes's heart in a way where she's like, even she starts realizing like, why am I this way to you? But as a result, some of the other commanders, they're like, we should just be killing them. Why are we not killing them? But Veshnes's like, nah, I want to learn more about them and, you know, play with them and whatever. But of course, that's what happens. Is like she's starting to grow feelings for Takumi. Which, I mean, much like everyone else in the Cult of Takumi timeline, Veshnes was also like, got the hots for Takumi, but she only wanted him for himself. She didn't want to share. So it's great. Again, this is where we learned. I believe. Did I learn that Veshnes and Eva were sisters in this route, or did I might have learned it in an earlier route. It might have been Killing Game, or Mystery, or Coming of Age route. It might have been that. I can't remember. Either way, this was a great route. The reason why I said it could have had more is because the other... Oh, anyway, I didn't explain like when we got to the choice. Eventually, some of the other commanders are like, you know what? I think it's time that Veshnes is no longer the supreme commander. So some of them sneak off to awaken Del Shah, so that Del Shah can, you know, kind of come and, you know, because like they're like, Del Shah's the only one that could probably beat her, or at least cause such a commotion that it will bring those who still side with Veshnes to like leave their post, and they'll also free the other special defense unit kids, so that they can all just like kill each other or whatever. So then you get a choice of like, do you stab Veshnes in the back or do you not? And I think this is what you get when you don't, because yeah, when you do, it's great. But it's so like, again, it's one of those like, and it's the whole like, you know, it's one of their taboos or something like that, where it's like if they remove their helmets, it's a sign of like a surrender or something like that, or a sign of telling the truth or something like that. So on one hand, I somewhat get why the other commanders didn't have their helmets removed during this, but I feel like this would have been the perfect opportunity to have a moment where they could have had their helmets removed. Granted, I know it'd be more drawings, but it'd be nice. It was actually very great in the route that Adamakyu, I believe it was, the Paragon of Hatred, him and Tsubasa like kind of got close, and it's like, yeah, it's like you're a coward, but like I'm also a coward, stuff like that. It was very good, very like a very good route there. So when you decide to stab Veshnes, and this is where I'm going to talk about, this is my least favorite, but again, there's only two, so it's like this is my second ranking. When you decide to do Veshnes is still powerful enough, and plus you're in chains, so she's like, you know what, we're gonna do this. You like through the entire theme, Veshnes is like, you're a great rival. I want to find an equal. I want to find an equal in terms of strength in battle and all that stuff. Then I'll be satisfied. Like she's not even gonna be satisfied when she like, I've already won the war because you're all captured, and this isn't satisfying me. I need to find an opponent worthy of me fighting them or whatever like that. So she's like, all right, fuck you then. So she's like dragging me along, and she's wiping everyone out. She's wiping all the other commanders out. She's wiping all the special defense unit members out. She kills them all. And she looks at Takumi and she's like, absorb all their cryptoglobin and we are gonna fucking fight. And then they fight for 5 days. But ultimately Takumi loses. And Nugwe, the commander that can restore time, or not restore time, but go back time, he shows up and he talks to Veshness, and then Veshness, goes and absorbs Shion, and that's the end of that ending there. Very good, very good. I will definitely say like these two endings for sure are probably both in my top 20, maybe top 25 endings. I'm saying 25 because I know that's a high number. But when you talk about 100 endings, I'm like, oh, but I actually like, I could definitely see myself like, oh, that's why I'm not saying top 10. Because I'm like, oh, well, I'll be honest, I like this one. It's like, oh, never mind, that's not my top 10. But I feel like they'd definitely be in the top 25 if I actually had to rank them. The Here With You one is a very sad one. Because when you don't stab her, I think you try to like talk her down or something. And I think one of the other commanders comes in, and I think Takumi protects Veshness. And then, like, Veshness, kills that commander. Either way, like, Tsubasa comes in and tries to kill Veshness. But by her killing Veshness, she, like, also kills Takumi. But they also run away. And, like, they have, like, a loving embrace like this. And it's like, wow. It's like, much like in a route I'll talk about later, it's so weird how this is probably like one of the most organic relationships that happened in this game. Is like how their relationship grew. Granted, I won't say it's the best relationship, but it like how it organically became a relationship is probably one of the reasons why I really like it, and that's why I really like this route. Like I said, it's a pretty nice route, pretty decent route. Not complaining too much about it, so there's that. Number 8 is the Box of Blessing route. I kind of like this one. I definitely liked it better than Box of Calamity, obviously. We learned about the Box of Blessings, where it's basically like, hey, gather the Dragon Balls type thing. So, the one thing that I did not like about this, if I'm being completely honest, so how we got here, which is very similar to how we got to the Box of Calamity, is we had to kill Ava. And then the next choice decided if we were going to the Box of Blessing or Box of Calamity route. Your next choice is, do you go look for Kako? If you say yes, you go to the Box of Blessing. If you say no, you go to the Box of Calamity. That's what happens. So, saying yes, you get to Gaku here. I think... Is there an ending here that I needed to... No, I don't think so. No, there was no endings here. I only needed 30s and 70 endings. I did not need any of the Box of Blessing route endings to unlock Story Lock. So, yeah. The Box of Blessing is... You get the 7 Box of Blessings and you get a Wish. But, there's 13 boxes. 7 is Calamities, or 7 are Blessings, 6 are Calamities. We already know what the Box of Calamity is. The Box of Calamities are all filled with geese that will, once open up, start disaster. But it's not bad. It's totally not bad. I liked it. Although, like, then your choices are so your first choice is, okay, who's going to be part of the, or it's like, all right, we made it teams. We made an exploration team and we made a defensive team. Takumi, pick which team you want. And it's like, okay, pick an exploration team. Okay, you go out exploring, looking for the boxes, and you find a good amount of them. Edo escapes, and then your next question is like, okay, we're going to split the teams up again. We're splitting up the exploration team into 2 teams, and it's like the guys or girls. Takumi, who do you want to go with? You want to go with the guys or the girls? I was like, okay, you pick one, you go get that ending, or then you go to the end and you pick whatever the last choice is. It's fine. All right, circle back to the first choice on the route here. All right, Takumi, what team are you going to go on? You're going to go on the exploration team. You're going to go on the defense team. I'll say on the defense team. Okay. Got a little close to Shoma. So this is like when Shoma kind of got a little bit of a a route, and Gaku also got another route here too. We'll talk about that if you already saw the picture and see it up there on above the one we're currently on. Eventually, Kako gets hurt because she was part of the exploration team. So that's the whole like, oh, what are we going to do? It's like, well, why don't the exploration team becomes the defense team and the defense team becomes the exploration team? Okay. So no matter what I chose, I was going to be on the exploration team. Fine, whatever. I end up being on the exploration team longer than the people who are on the exploration team. 8 escapes. Oh, we got to split up the exploration team. All right, who are you going to be with? You going to be on Shoma's team or are you going to be on Nozomi's team? All right, whichever you pick, and then you get to your endings. The reason, like, I'll be honest, I'm like, there's a part of me that was like, maybe this one honestly should have been lower than the Veshness one at least, and maybe even the romance one. God, maybe I should have rewritten this, but I liked it because of the endings. If I'm being honest, the endings of this one kind of like is what really did win me over a lot, and at least the premise of it too. We actually learned that we are not on Earth on this route. There's a lot of routes where we don't learn that we're on Earth. So this is one of those. I believe Veshness' route also says that we're not on Earth, and we also learn a lot about Veshness too. So that's why I really like that route too. The Box of Blessings, reveals that we're not on Earth, obviously. So then we get... So I liked it. I liked it. And it was really good. God, I'm trying to think of what I haven't said, if I'm being honest. So I do like the fact that, like, you kind of do get some character focus routes points here, but other ones, it's straight up like, okay, you go with the boys, you're kind of on a Gaku focus. You go with the girls, not really any one in particular focus. Okay, you go from defense team and then to the exploration team. Shoma's team. Okay, these endings are going to be a Shoma focus, which is great. Nozomi's. Honestly, the ones with the endings that you get on Nozomi's team are probably one of the worst. It does not have the worst one, if I'm being completely honest. But it does have, there's some bad ones. There's, like, even though, like, I will be honest, this probably does have one of the endings I do not like as well. That would be at the bottom along with all the casualty or all the conspiracy ones. This one did actually have some ones that I did like. So let's get into it. Never forget. Where the fuck is that one? Number 30. Never forget. So throughout this, Shoma is like learning more about the Futurums, and he's like, oh, there has to be a way where, Futurums and humanity can live together. And then there's like a choice, like Shoma blames himself for like the death of the villagers in one place because we were too trusting, and as a result they died. So then my choice is like, you either can stay there or you gotta make a choice. I can't remember which one leads to this, but eventually, like, Shoma comes in during the fight and he ends up sacrificing himself, and he says, hey, use those boxes of blessings to make a wish to make sure that humanity and the Futurums can, coexist together like I know they can. And which isn't bad. So you're like, but why is that why is this not your favorite? Because they don't fucking do that! They don't do Shoma's last request as in using the wishes of the box to make sure that humanity and the Futurums can coexist. They don't use the box at all. So then as a result, humanity comes down and war erupts again. Bullshit. One of my least favorite ones. Better without. I believe these two are the endings that we get when we go on Nozomi's side. The reason why I'm not a fan of this one is they don't know how to open up the boxes, and they don't. Oh no! They don't get all the boxes. We don't find all the boxes, and this one does get a hint about, like, we got some notes about we got notes of people here before, and then they're like, wait, are we actually real, or are we like robots, and are we programmed? are we actually programmed to be looking for the boxes because they want us to type thing? So don't get me wrong, that's a nice premise there too. But it's also like, which is pretty cool, but still. The next one, I believe it is, that's the wrong one, is actually the value of trust. Now, this one is actually a pretty interesting one of how you get to it. So, when you've been on the exploration team, then you choose to be on the boys' side or the girls' side. I chose the boys' side, and we get a little more characteristics of Gaku. So, the final choice is, do you trust Gaku with trying to stop Edo, or do you try to stop Edo yourself? Well, you try to stop Edo yourself, and Edo's like, yeah, fuck you. I don't need to open the boxes here, and I can take my sweet-ass time opening the boxes. So that's the value of trust. So it's like, oh, that kind of sucks, but it totally makes sense as to why that happens. The fifth one, cursed by calamity. I forgot. Oh, yeah. So, funny enough, when you team up with the girls instead of the boys on that route, you actually get all the boxes. And the old man, who we see in a few routes, told us that there's a way to open up the boxes in a way of like, how are you supposed to know which is the right ones or not? It's like, oh, the 7 stand alone. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? And it's like, okay, so the boxes have moons on them, and they all have different moons, starting at 2 to 13, and then there's a 17. It's like, what the fuck is this about? But then you realize, like, oh, you either open up the prime numbers or you open up the negative numbers, because the prime numbers was the correct one. This is what happens when you open the negative ones. What's in the box of you open up the box of calamities, which is the Gis. Well, you just opened up 6 Gi queens, so of course lots of death is gonna happen, and that's what happens, which isn't bad. Again, it's not a bad ending. And again, it ties to the Gi, which is another thing that I liked about this, is like the box of blessings ties to the Gi as well as stuff. So what happened next? Something inside. This is what happens when we chose to burn the boxes. The better off without is we bury the boxes. This is we destroy the boxes. And we see that something, Takumi's the only one that caught something inside, which is, again, I thought it was something else, but it's like, is it a Gi or is it this other thing that's in another route that we'll begin to here shortly? Well, it actually ends up being the Gi, is what we learned in another timeline. So, which isn't bad. Again, it's not a bad one. So, I can't really complain too much about it, if I'm being completely honest. So, the next one is Gaku's harem. Not a bad one. Actually kind of funny. Like, he wishes for a harem, but his harem's only Darumi and Koishika coming back to life, which is like, hey, that's nice at least. Koishika and Darumi came back to life, but they're just now fawning over Gaku, which I guess. A Brighter Future is my second favorite one, because unlike the other Shoma ending, this one's also a Shoma ending. Shoma lives here, like Shoma survives here, and it's like, hey, let's not use the box of blessings, and let's try to, we'll be the mediators between the Futurums and the Earthlings. It just seems like it's a little bit better, because like Shoma's alive, and he's like, we'll have the box of blessings as a last resort in case us trying to do peace talks doesn't happen. So I was like, okay, it's whatever. As in never forget, he says use it to make sure that there's peace between them, but we never do. So yeah. And my favorite one is, of course, Blessed with a Miracle, because unlike it's basically the same as the Gaku's harem ending. It's just this one's way better because, hey, Darumi and Koishika are alive, and there's no harem, which is nice. Can't really complain about that one. The next one is the Retsnam route. I really like this route. Unfortunately, how I get to this route is you forsake Second to Last Defense Academy, and you go back to the Last Defense Academy on the route where you save, keep Edo alive, reveal your secret. So you come back here, Or you go and convince Nozomi that, like, oh, don't worry, they'll be fine. But then Nozomi hates you. So I was like, oh, fuck. So then, Darumi, one time, Takumi can't, sleep. And he sees that Darumi's in the, or no, I think Shion actually comes in and says, like, hey, you know this girl? Is she your friend? She's kind of like doing this stuff. And she's looking for a book on resurrection. So she wants to find a way to bring the others back to life. So Takumi helps. Well, as they read through it, they learn about Retsnom, which can produce a crimson tear. Which makes bring people back to life. And we learn that the crimson tear is basically it replenishes cryptoglobin or reinvigorates cryptoglobin along the way. I can't quite remember. So of course, eventually you find the shrine, which I thought at first in that one box of calamity or box of blessing route that something inside is like, was that Retsnom? Because we find the boxes at shrines, and we found Retsnom at a shrine. So I was like, is Retsnom a weird gi or something like that? Never gets explained. I'm not really too broken about that, if I'm being honest. Retsnom is definitely one of the things I'm like, okay, it's just a weird creature thing. So then we prove ourselves to the old man. So this is the second time we see the old man, or at least on this rundown. The first time we saw the old man was actually in this route. This was the first route where I saw the old man. And then the second time I saw the old man was in the box of blessings route. And we get there. And so we prove ourselves to him, and he's like, okay, there's two ways to awaken Retsnom. One, you guys can just take him, but he's a beast. And you might not be able to tame him or whatever. Or two, he has to be, one of you has to be like a vessel for him. So of course I picked we can handle him as a beast. Which leads me to my least favorite endings of this. It's all your fault. So once you get Retsnom back, or once you take Retsnom back to the school, you have two choices. I can't quite remember what they were, but it's like, how do you want to like try to, persuade Retsnom? Do you either be forced, like, do you give him food, or you gotta, like, gonna capture him again? Well, this is what happens when we try to capture him again. Retsnom, like, knocks both Darumi and Takumi out, and then Retsnom just goes on a spree of eating everything. So then in the end, Darumi is like, hey, Takumi, it's my fault. Just stab me and say it's all your fault so you can kill me. I don't want to die being eaten by that thing. And that happens. So, that's happened. And the next one I don't like is this one. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. We both just die. But the reason why this one's at the lowest is because Takumi says it's all your fault to Darumi. And Darumi's definitely one of the best girls here. That's what I like about this route, too. That's why it's so high up on the list at number 7. Is because it's a very Darumi-focused route. Which is great, considering that Darumi's dead for more than 50 of these endings. So it's really nice that way, by the way. And yeah, it's great. I like it. It's a very interesting route, too. So then we get to the last two endings. Which is what happens when we go and be like, oh, let's put Retsnom in a vessel. And of course, Takumi's like, I'll be the vessel. But then Darumi's like, nah, knocks me the fuck out by hitting him with a baseball bat. Or something. I think it was actually like a lead pipe. And then she takes it on instead. And all through it, we learn about she's going through changes. We're trying to... And we're not telling anyone else about what's going on, too, by the way. Because we don't want to get their hopes up in case this ends up being one giant fuck you type thing. So, we go through it all. But eventually, we learn that Retsnom has kind of taken over Darumi. And it's now a whole... Like, that's not Darumi anymore, it's Retsnom. But how Retsnom works is very similar to the Gi in that they have, if they can just like eat like a finger of someone, it automatically has all their memories, can have their personality and all that stuff. So of course Takumi's like, I don't like that. and he asks Shion to, burn his arm so he can get rid of Darumi, Retsam, that way, because that's the only way to kill him. And Takumi's like, this is going to kill me too, so... But as a result, I think Darumi, the real Darumi, learned that, like, hey, he actually cared for you as a friend, which is something great that you actually learned about Darumi here, about, like, why she puts on the act, why she does what she does. And you kind of learn that in another route too, one of the other rare routes where she survives for the long haul. But this is one of those ones where it's like, you learn that, like, why Darumi acts the way and why she does everything she does. But eventually, so after the attack where Takumi thinks he's going to die, he wakes up and everyone is alive. Everyone except Darumi, because she possessed the Crimson Tier or the Ruby Tier. The Ruby Tier, that's what it's called. It's the Ruby Tier. And we were able to bring everyone back to life who died. Except for Eito and Darumi. Or did we bring Eito back? I don't think so. I think Eito said did too. Yeah, Eito sacrificed himself to prevent Darumi from dying. Because, Sirei learned about what was going on and everything. And, of course, that's when we spilled the beans to everyone. And Sirei was like, no, I'm going to kill you. But Eito sacrificed himself, which was pretty cool. So, yeah. And then that leads me to my final ending here with this route. The We Are One one. I really like this ending. So the choice that, like, splits these two up is, like, Darumi's like, hey, we can just kill everyone here and you can all be, stronger and better like I am. Type thing. This is when you say no. And this is what happens when you say yes. And she brings everyone back to life. This is the first time I actually saw the cutscene of everyone doing the opening thing. Or the battle stations or battle costumes. And it's great. I really liked it. But I think what I really like the most is there's two lines that Darumi's voice actress, which I think she's probably one of my favorite voice actresses from this game, is when we're killing Veshness and she's actually absorbing Veshness. And she's like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Now just hold tight and relax. Like she's all hyper and excited. But then the final word is like she's very toned down and serious, like, ooh. And then it's the same thing here at the end. She's like, I love you, Takumi. Now we can be together forever. So it's like, fuck! Like, just the way that the voice direction went for those. Like, I'll be honest, I did overreact, but I still loved it, if I'm being honest. So, but yeah. That is why Retsam is up there. The next one is the slasher route. This is actually the second route that happens after we kill... Oh, and Retsam, kind of like mentions the Gi stuff in a way. I feel like Retsam is very similar to the Gi. But yes, the slasher route, a very interesting route, especially what I learned in a later route. And I'm not going to spoil anything about routes that I haven't talked about yet. But when I get to those routes, I will. Maybe I've already done that in another one. I don't remember. Either way. I'm trying to think. This is the one where, this is the first route I'm talking about where I did the kill Eito as the first choice. This is one of the first routes that I'm talking about for this. It is not my first route from that choice, but it's the first one I'm talking about now. The slash route is a very interesting one. It has a very interesting premise of the serial killer. It's eventually what leads at some point. So we kill Eito, and then it's like, do you leave the school or not? Well, I stayed, but now it's a whole kills Gaku. Then it's like, hey, do you want to do a killing game? No. This is what happens when we say no to the killing games. We get the slasher route, or as it called some other timeline, they call it the serial killer route. The slash route is a pretty interesting one. And as weird as it is, it kind of also splits off into another route in a way that's like, it kind of is like, it doesn't make sense. They should have called, if I'm being honest, they should have actually had that split off into another route. But I'll get there eventually. So eventually, you know, get a serial killer who's in a suit and he's chasing you with a power saw. Depending on some of the choices, you might learn who's under it right away, or you might not learn who's under it at all. Kind of just depends on what's going on. So eventually, you know, we're trying to like figure out, because we've been seeing people die every now and then. I think the next one to die was Moko, and that's when we get a choice. Or and like Hiroko got attacked as well, and I believe no. The comedy route is what happens when they leave the school after the first warning. Yeah, never mind. Is this also lead the slash route? I don't remember. Or does that lead the mystery route? I can't remember. Maybe I might have missed something up somewhere along the lines about like where serial killer route or slash route starts. But point being, eventually, we're being chased by a killer. We're trying to find, you know, trying to stop this killer and all this other stuff. But, you know, shit goes down and, like, we get nothing. Very good premise. Very good premise. Revenge is my least favorite ending here. Not because of anything like that. It's also, it's kind of like the ones where it's like, it's tied to the other ending. The other ending's just that much better. So eventually, we learn that Takumi is the serial killer. Why? Don't know yet. So then the final choice is like, who do you go after? Do you go after Nozomi or do you go after Hiroko? Because it's only you three. You're the only three that is left. And what's great is it becomes a section where you're, you know, running down the hallways. And it's like, Nozomi goes left, Hiroko goes right. Well, it's like, okay, I'm going to chase Nozomi. So you go left, but they move right because it's not listening to you. It's doing the exact opposite of the thing you want to do, which is great. This is what happens when you chase Hiroko and you kill Hiroko. You somehow drop the buzzsaw and then Nozomi just kills you. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just very quick, simple, easy ending, which is, you know, nothing wrong with that. Kyoshika's last stand is the one after. Eventually, it ends up only being Kyoshika and Takumi are the only ones left alive. And then your final choice is... Oh yeah, they become zombies. In some of the routes on here, the dead characters become zombies. What? We learned that it's because of the gi. So... This is actually where I first learned about the gi, was on this route. So like, ooh, that's interesting. So, and we actually, this is where the characters also learn about, you know, the differences between, there's a gi queen that spawns females that possess living, and there's a gi queen that spawns males that possess the dead. So it's a very interesting thing like that. So... yeah, so the Gi Queen is here that possesses the dead. So everyone's dead and as a zombie, except for Koishika and Takumi. It's the last day. You have your final choices. You either run to the escape pod, or you distract them so that Koishika can survive. This is what happens when you run to the escape pod. Koishika gets caught and killed by the zombies, but I think Takumi survived. So it's like, that's interesting. But... again, it's just one of those where it's like, it's not that great, if I'm being honest. But it's also not the worst, if I'm being honest, too. So it'd probably be somewhere in the middle, in terms of that. History repeating is what happens when you run, where you distract the zombies so that Kyoshika can run away. The naming of it makes no sense. You're probably thinking, why is it called history repeating? Well... because in this route, Takumi gets possessed by a gi. And I know I said I wasn't going to spoil other routes, but without spoiling other routes, we learned that Takumi was possessed by a gi in an earlier part of this timeline, but then he gets fixed of it, and that's what results into the zombie timeline, and then he gets possessed again, as we saw here. It's something that's a little complicated, and I'll explain that more later on when we get to that route. So that's why it's called history repeating. So it's like, oh, okay, it's not a bad ending again. It makes sense when you know the context of it, but still also my my one of the lower ones there. It Was You is also the one I'm not a big fan of. Eventually, I believe this is so you at one point in the slasher route that does not split off into the zombie route, which is again, there's a point here where whatever choice you make splits it off into the route that makes the zombies, where 4 endings are zombie related, and then there's another choice that you make that splits it off that makes it into the slasher endings. So this is one of the slasher endings, 4 of the slasher endings. So it's kind of weird. I was like, I feel like they should have called the 4 of the zombies the zombie route, because they referred to that in the game in another timeline. So I digress. So we get to, this is the one where we get a choice of, hey, do we go talk to Hirako or do we stay and talk to Nozomi? This is what happens when we stay and talk to Nozomi. Takumi dies, and we skip some days and we see what happens, and eventually all who is left is only Nozomi, Shoma, and Kyoshika. And this choice that we make is made by Nozomi, which I think is really fucking great. And your choice is either, so they take the bus and they're trying to escape, Last Defense Academy. And they're the guys on the bus. So you have 2 choices. Either you run into the wall, or you stand, or Nozomi fights the killer while Kyoshika and Shoma run away. And this is what happens when she stands and fight. She takes him out, but then eventually a second one comes up, and we learn who's behind the mask here, and it's like, oh. So it's like, oh, that's not good type thing. So, but we don't know who it is. Nozomi knows, but we don't know who it is until much later. I'll get to that later. The 3 of us. I like this one. It's a very somewhat hopeful one in a way. Even though I think the final attack is still going on in this timeline, the 3 of them will try to find a way to survive it and do whatever they can, which I think is really great. It's a really nice premise for an ending here. So, Flight of the Living Dead. This one is fucking hilarious. I love it because this is the zombie one. This is another zombie one. How you get to this one is eventually there's a choice of either kill zombie Nozomi or not kill zombie Nozomi. This is what happens when you don't kill zombie Nozomi. Takumi becomes a zombie, but he doesn't realize he's a zombie. And then eventually we get to another choice. Karada is the only one alive, so we try and so we go, and it's like Karada is the only one alive, and our choice is, do we kill Karada or not? This is what happens when we decide to kill Karada and make her one of us. And then we all get on the escape pod, and we all go to the we all get to the escape pod, and we go back there because we're gonna go possess the artificial satellite, which is hilarious because again, this is a gi. This is all, it's all tied to the gi, but it's in different ways. In the slasher, it's the killer is possessed by a gi. A bit of a spoiler. In the zombie parts of it, we're all possessed by the gis that possess the living dead. So that's another good thing I like about this route too. So Flight of the Living Dead. Second favorite one, Goodbye Kiss. This is the one that we needed to know to unlock an ending. And I think we also needed 70. Yeah, we needed 76 as well. So that's true. So Goodbye Kiss is what happens when you go and kill Nozomi instead of Hiroko in that choice. Hiroko captures you and learns that Takumi was a serial killer possessed by a Gi. But Takumi doesn't show signs of being possessed by a Gi. But he has like Gi data inside of his brain. But the physical Gi is not there. So it's like, oh, fuck. What's going to go on? Or what's wrong? Or like, what the fuck does that mean? So, again, it's something I'll bring up later. And they, this is where we get the biggest info dump about the Gi. And it's really good, too. But then in the end, it's like, Takumi's like, you can go and save yourself. And she's like, no, can't do that. Final attack is literally going to happen in 10 seconds. And that's where Hiroko kisses Takumi. It's really nice. And my favorite ending, and probably would be in my top 10, maybe top 5, is Karada's Last Stand. I fucking love this ending just because of the CG alone. So this is what happens when zombie Takumi does not bite her. Karada just gets fed up, grabs a chainsaw and skins their ass raw and goes all Ash versus the Evil Dead on their asses. And it's just so hilarious how it's like zombie Takumi's watching. Like somehow zombie Takumi's like not being possessed by the Gi. And then Karada walks up to him and she's like, hey, you came from a different, you came from the future, right? This can't have been the future you wanted. If you can go back in time, do it right now. And then she kills Takumi. It's great. I fucking love it. I love that ending so much. It's so great. It's fantastic. Oh, I loved it. It was so good. We're in the top 5 now. Top 5, and we're over 2 hours in. I love to talk, don't I? Love to talk. I'll try my best not to be too much about it. I'll definitely, this one right here, the next one, number 5, is the mystery route. I really like the mystery route, and because of the importance for it too is so good as well. It's a really good route, which actually I think was my 3rd route. It was my 3rd route. However, I was not actually able to get the last 2 endings of this route because I need to advance another route to get to Story Lock 2, and then it would unlock Story Lock 3, so then I can, go and do the last bit of this route. So I'm going to talk about this route. So the mystery route is what happens when we... Okay, I gotta be honest. How did we get to the mystery route again in the chapter select? I don't remember. Okay, so these are all curry routes. So these are the slasher routes. Mystery route. How do we get to the mystery route from slasher route? Or no, that's still mystery route. Okay. How do we get to mystery route though? What is the final choice that makes it? Join. Okay, so join the invader hunt. Saying no leads to mystery route. Saying yes leads to the killing game route. So then what leads to the slasher route? What choice leads to that? Oh, kick the attacker. Kick the attacker. And dodge the attacker is what leads to the comedy route. Okay. Alright, that makes sense. So, the mystery route is my next favorite one. My number 5 endings. Or my number 5 routes. So, we're trying to figure out that there's someone out there killing us. Gaku's already dead. And now we're trying to figure out why some of our other friends are dying every now and then. Well, we kind of learned that, like, oh, this friend died because this other friend killed him. But why did that other friend kill him? Well, it's because someone told me to kill them and do it exactly this way. What? And then, like, as we try to get information, they die. Same way, someone else killed them, and they wanted to be killed by, you know, they had this person who they call X to be the one to kill them. Or the X is the one that does the killing, or tells them to do the killing. So, yeah. Very good premise. We eventually do learn who it is. And we'll talk about that when we get to that point. So, my least favorite ending is the Lost in Darkness one. I can't remember the choice that led to this, but everyone's dead except for you. And then you end up dying at the end. And it's like, well, fuck. Who the fuck is the one that killed you? So it's kind of just like, the reason why it's my least favorite is because of so many questions that leaves behind that doesn't get answered. A kind heart well done. I believe, I can't remember. There's a choice, like, if I think it is, I think a kind heart well done, whatever led to this also leads to this. Then revenge from Oko also leads to this. I don't remember. Again, I'm not entirely sure, like, what choices lead to these endings. But at some point, like, everyone's... Oh, I think this is one of the endings that... And same with this one. I believe when we... So, my choices are... I believe... So, Takumi's like a detective. And he has a choice of, like, oh, who killed this character? And then you have the choice of the characters who are there. Well, what happens if you pick the wrong one? Well, that's what happens to Lost in Darkness. Is like you get like, oh, they think you're dumb or whatever, and they put you into the cell, and then eventually you wake up and all that stuff happens. I believe that's the same thing that happens here, but there's one where there's one choice where there's 3 endings. There's one that's like you pick someone who's not the right culprit, and then there's one where you pick yourself as the culprit, and then there's one you pick as the real culprit. I can't remember. I think this is, again, another one of those endings that leads to, like, you just pick the wrong person. So that's what happens there. But again, if I'm being honest, I'm not entirely sure, like, remembering how it all happened for some of these. The purple flames? What? Oh, Dance in the Purple Flames. Dance in the Purple Flames, I believe, is the exact same thing. It's, again, actually, I think maybe... Yeah, it's the exact same things in a way. Yugamu, who was just trying to not... He wasn't going to kill Takumi, but Nozomi thought so. And as a result, she dies. And then all 3 of them, I believe, end up in the Undying Flames. Again, I think this is a result of picking the wrong choice in one of the options of... who you think killed someone there. This might actually be the one where you pick yourself as the killer. I can't remember. Oh yeah, because I believe this is the route where Takumi develops fainting disease, where it's like he faints and just doesn't remember what happens for days on end, which is hilarious. So, what was my next one after that? Oh, my next one, I believe, was actually one of the ones that I could not get until the end. Yeah, that's right. Which actually, I might change that. No, I'll keep it as is. Explosion. So, we're not able to get this ending until we get to Story Lock 2. How we get to Story Lock 2 is by... we have to unlock Story Lock 1, and then eventually we get to Story Lock 2 on another timeline. So then we get here, we figured out that, like, whoever the killer is disguises himself as Karara. So we go and we learn about, and we follow them to the Leap Machine. And this is at the point where Takumi remembers about the Leap Machine. So we get there, and they're like, all right, I'm going to give you to the count of 10 or whatever. And you gotta guess who I am under the mask here. So you're like, okay. And this is just what happens when you pick Ron. So you pick Ron, and then, you know, she kills everyone. The killer kills everyone. So it's like, yeah. If I'm being honest, this one probably should have been on the lower end of the card. But again, it's also just one of the things where it's like, I don't remember any of these endings up here. So it's not that big of a deal in my honest opinion. So yeah. I do remember this one though, which is the next one called Pinky Promise. So this is a result of, as you see, Shoma's dead. We learn that Ava killed him. Well, why? Well, X. Okay. So then there's two things. We get another choices. We either stop Ava or we let her do whatever. This is what happens when we let her do whatever. And she realizes that, like, she has a bomb in her pinky that she, like, detonates and blows us all up. And that's what happens there. Which is pretty cool. So it's awesome. Revenge for Moko. I believe, again, this is one of the ones where I picked the wrong character. And I think she thinks that I was the one that killed Moko. And Nozomi just kind of goes crazy. So, I don't know. Again, I don't remember a lot of them. Same with this one, the Terminated Sumino one. Instead of Nozomi killing me, it's Moko. But again, it's one where I picked the wrong choice. They took me into the cage. I stay in the cage until day 99, day 100. Everyone else is dead, but Moko and oh no. Okay. I actually remember this. I actually remember both Terminated Sumino and Revenge from Moko, which honestly makes no sense why they're not closer together. Actually, no. I think a Kind Heart Well Done is also tied to this as well. I think there's three. There's another choice here. This is another one that's three choice. So Lost in Darkness is its own thing. So these three are their own. I believe this is what happens when you pick yourself as the killer, I think. And then you are in the cage. It's day 99 or day 100. Everyone else is dead except you, Moko, and a Nozomi. So then you get your final choice is like, who's the killer? And you pick who the killer is. I think Terminated Sumino is the one that when you say yourself. A Kind Heart Well Done is when you say it's Nozomi and she just kills herself. And then Revenge for Moko is, I believe, you say it's Moko, but Moko has a knife and she's about to kill you, but you move out of the way and you somehow kill Moko, and then Nozomi kills you for revenge. I remember that. Granted, I could go and see if that is the actual setup, but I'm like, I don't want to, if I'm being honest. It's not that big of a deal. So yeah, that's right there. And then probably, again, another ending that would definitely be my top 10 is Visitors from Day 100. So, as you see there, everyone's alive. How is everyone alive? Well, because of the Time Leap Machine. Because in another route, on another ending in another route, the characters who died in the mystery route are alive in another route. And the characters who are alive in this route are dead in the other route. So, and they all just got brought here by the leap machine. We also, how we get to this ending is we learned who X is, and X is Kako G. Kako possessed by a Gi from the Box of Calamity timeline, which is really great. Who got transferred there early on at the start of the Box of Calamity timeline when she attacked Nozomi, or tried to attack Nozomi, but then, you know, we prevented that from happening, which is again that we saw at the in the box of my favorite the Knife of Despair one. So there it is. That's Kako G. That's what happens when we tried to attack her. But since we followed here, we did what Hiroko wanted us to do, and then Hiroko took her to the Time Leap Machine, our Parallel Leap Machine, and was able to, you know, take Kako away from that timeline so that, you know, other things would happen as they should, which is good. My fourth favorite is the second scenario route, which again consists of this one, Reset, and Goodbye Edo. this is definitely, I would not fault you if you thought this felt like a very canon ending. At least a canon route. So you go through, you have to make so many right choices. Like, you keep Ado alive. You reveal your secret. You stay at second to last Defense Academy. You reveal Nozomi's secret. And then I think the next choice is you have to sacrifice Kyoshika. And then you have to let Hiroko destroy Nigo. And then you have, I believe the next one is letting Shion join you. No, let Ava join you. Ava has to join you. So, no, Ava happens before the let Hiroko destroy Nigo one. And then you have, like, there's just so many choices of what you have to do in order to get to this route. It'd be a tough battle, but the game somewhat kind of points you in the right directions. Like when Kako and Ima make up, Kako talks to you like, hey, Takumi, I had a vision. I don't know what it is, but if you want to know the truth, you gotta keep Gaku safe. And you're like, oh, okay. But that's not the next choice. It's not tied to the next choice. The next choice is, do you let Hiroko destroy Nigo or not? So you don't let her do it. And then the next choice is, who do you save, Kurata or Gaku? Well, Kako said that Gaku's tied to the thing, so we gotta save Gaku. All right? We saved Gaku, and then it's like, then Ado attacks again. Do you spare Ado, let him, or kill him again? We spare Ado. Okay? Shoma's starting to remember stuff, because Shoma's remembering stuff. Shoma's brainwashing is coming undone. But he needs the cryptoglobin of a commander. Well, all the commanders are dead, save for Veshnes, and Ava. What does Shoma do? Hey, I gotta absorb Ava. And it's like, okay, we'll let you do that. And that's where we learn that we are not on Earth. Actually, no, we learned that we weren't on Earth earlier, after we didn't destroy Nigo, I believe. Or no, after we kept Ado alive. He told us about that. And then Shoma realized the truth behind us, how we are all clones of Shion. And, like, the truth about this. So, which is crazy. And then Sirei gets rebuilt, and it's all just stuff. So then, you had two endings. Your final two choices are, do you let Ado back into the group after he's kind of proven himself to be with you? Or do you not do it? Which leads me to my least favorite ending of this route, which is the Goodbye Ado one. And the reason why I don't like this one is because I like it in some aspects. I just don't like it because you obviously have to say no to Ado joining you back up. But I like it because we then get to see the perspective of Ado as he walking to Second Last Defense Academy. And then he eventually comes across some Futurums. He sees a kid that we never see anywhere else, who has a voice and has an actual like portrait that we never see them anywhere else. And he actually like realizes that like he actually dies to protect them in a way, because he had an undying flame bomb. Because like, hey, as an insurance policy in case Veshnes does attack you or whatever, use this to destroy her type thing. But Ado uses it to make sure that the kids that he saved escape, which is pretty cool. So, but he wanted like one last fake memory inside of him, and it's this memory right here, which is really cool, and I like that. My second ending the second ending of this route is the reset one. The final choice is after everything. It's like, well, we could just, it's like, because Veshnes destroys the artificial satellite in the final battle with her. And it's like, well, there's nothing to do. Like, there's no humanity left to save, so we should just stop the final attack. Well, Sirei comes back and he's like, nope, I'm not going to let you do that because I'm still the will of humanity. Even though humanity's dead, I'm still the will of humanity. So it's like, do you defy Sirei one last time or do you not? This is what happens when you choose not to. And he's like, don't worry, humanity's not dead. You still have Nozomi. and make, you will be the fathers, you'll be the ancestors of the new species of Futurum and human, species, the combined species of the two. And we go on the satellite, we survive the attack, and we come back, and they wipe all of our memories. Sirei wipes all of our memories clean. And it's like, oh. So, but yeah, that's that. And then again, probably an ending that would be in my top 5. But good, farewell, Last Defense Academy. This is what happens when you defy Sirei. Nozomi's sick, and she's not really in tip-top shape, but it's like all her cryptoglobin is leaving her. So, after she shoots Sirei to shit, killing him, all of us go to the defense room so that we can prevent the final attack by destroying the missiles. Well, there's a defense system that happens, and it's a massive, overpowered mech that's like, why aren't these things do jack shit in any of the other timelines? So, as a result, everyone dies, save for Takumi. And Takumi absorbs the cryptoglobin of all the fallen comrades. And all the fallen comrades get a final say. Takumi absorbs everyone, and he's able to he kills the opponents or destroys the missiles. And then he finally gets to, stop Shion and all that stuff. But as he does that, there's an explosion that knocks him out of the school and close to Nozomi, and he dies. And Nozomi's the only one left alive. But then at the end, she finds a group of Futurums who are at first try to attack her, but she's like, no, I don't want to do that. And she reaches a hand out, not knowing what will happen, but they accept her. And that might actually be my third favorite ending, honestly, now that I think about it. It just might be. So it's really good. Maybe in the top 5. It's still up there, so can't really complain too much about it if I'm being honest. So really like that route a lot. Really good route. Really good route. Top 3, guys. We're in the top 3. We're almost done. I can get this done before we've gotten to 3 hours. The next one is the coming of age route. Now, this one's an actually pretty interesting one. So, how you get here is keep Ado alive, reveal your secret, save second to last Defense Academy, and you do not reveal Nozomi's secret. That's how you get to this route here. So it's very good. So, now it's kind of like a whole, okay, you try to you talk to Nozomi, you tell her that, like, I know why and all this stuff, but it's I want you to do it yourself, or we could do something else where Ado told me to lie. So your first choice is, do you lie about why Nozomi isn't here? Or do you, lie about Nozomi's secret? Or do you actually not do that? Howdy Neighbor, which is my least favorite ending of this, is what happens when you lie. They're like, oh, yeah, we believe you. But then they, find out about it. So then you're trapped in the cage for the whole rest of the game, presumably. I don't know what they do with Nozomi. I think they are, going to go kill her or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember. Either way, the ending, happens here. So then when you don't lie, they, they continue onward. Eventually, Veshness attacks, and she sends out, and we send the Undying Flame Bomb. But how we detonate it is much different than the other time, is that they cut Takumi in half, and he detonates the bomb, but they take his other half to go and restore him and bring him back to life at the thing. But as a result, he was out for a few days. And I think we got Ava on the team at that point. And I think this is kind of like where the brainwashing was first a thing, because then we also got Ato to come out, and they did the exact same thing on Ado. And it worked. It was like, love and peace. And then eventually we got a whole, eventually I think Sirei gets destroyed. Oh, dropped my notebook. And Nigo was also destroyed, by the way, too. So that's why, like, Nigo... I think Nigo just... It gets destroyed in that, so... So... It all happens, you know. It all does what it does. And... So, Edo joins the class, but eventually... They learn about this tattoo that was going to use to fake Nozomi's thing, and as a result, there's like dissension, and Nozomi's suffering from her withdrawal, rejection symptoms, because she can't fully, because she's a human and she can't really use cryptoglobin like we can because we're Futurums. So, as a result, you know, it fights back on her. So, as a result, you know, everyone, you know, splits up. And when we go to a base, it's like... So then, the next choice is Shion, who we call him FB in this route for whatever dumb reason. Is like, hey, I can give my cryptoglobin willingly to her so that she can survive. And your choice is like yes or no. If you choose no, eventually, Nozomi passes away. Which is my third least favorite end, my third ending of that route. And then we get to these two. So eventually, so then when you say yes to that, you get the next choice is the other group comes and they're starting to attack you because they, you know, they think you're traitors. But it actually turns out that it was Edo who like manipulated the thing. He wasn't able to get brainwashed because it doesn't work on him like it did on Ava. So then you get two choices here. Your final choice is, do you kill Nozomi to not only absorb her power, but also Shion's power, because Shion's power gives you a boost, or do you not do it and do another way? The best friends route is what happens when you kill Nozomi. And you actually have this. This is a really awesome, you know, part, if I'm being honest. So, yeah. Also, yeah, I believe also Shoma and Ava die at some point too. I can't remember exactly what happens. I think like Veshness attacks or something, but yeah. So that's what happened. So my favorite ending, and again, probably one of the ones that's in my top 5, the Bittersweet Youth, is Takumi said like, I can't kill the girl that I love when he does that. So then it's a whole like, oh, but then we learned that like Shion's power is kind of like going through all of us, because it's like the power of cryptoglobins, the power of friendship. And you know, it's a very, again, this is a very slice of life ending here, I'd say. And it's a very good ending. And I think I said this not yet, because this was actually my like I said, I think this was my third, actually it was my fourth ending, or my fourth route, I mean. Yeah, this was like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this was my fourth route. So, but this was probably my second favorite ending at the time. So, I really like that. So, Coming of Age was great. Coming in at number 2 of my favorite routes is the last route I did, the SF route. This route was great. This is the route that, again, I could have accidentally gotten this onto my first route, but I would have been locked behind it because you needed to get ending 36 and 32 or 34, whatever ending. And then you need to get Goodbye Kiss and History Repeating, and you need to get the Exercise Plan and the Hollow Victory ending from Box of Calamity, and the other ones were from the Slasher route. And you also need to reach Story Block 3 on the Mystery route. So, the SF route is, I can't remember what they called it off the top of my head. But the result of it being is that this is where we learn how Hiroko's time travel power works. We learned about that in another timeline. I believe we learned it in Mystery Timeline and one of the boxes. Oh yeah, we learned in the Box of Calamity timeline, but we also learned in another timeline as well. I think she also kind of mentioned it to us in this spot too, Oh God. Before we got to the choice of either kissing her or not kissing her. This is what happens when you choose not to kiss her. So basically this whole route is the whole going from one timeline to another timeline to like try to prevent those timelines going into bad endings. As we saw in other timelines, we saw characters in the leap suit, the scuba diving suits. That was actually Takumi and Hiroko in some of the timelines, but that was not always the case. It was also like that in some with other characters as well. And I'll talk more about that. So eventually, we got through some of the, stuff. The first choice is, the first choice we finally got to was, hey, so we went to like the timeline where Takumi was possessed by the Gi, because as we learned is like, so our consciousness is, we're trapped in a loop. And our consciousnesses keep coming back at some point. Whether we remember it or not, we don't know. Hiroko remembered 147, 146 of these timelines. Takumi at first could only remember like 2 or 3 of them. Once you unlock the story lock thing. So then what happens next is like, that's what they're doing. They're now making more timelines to like try to break out of this loop. And it's great. So we go to other timelines. So we went to a timeline where Takumi was possessed by the Gi. And it's the one where it could have split off either into the comedy route or the slasher route, I believe it was. So when we go to prevent the Takumi from that timeline of curing the Hiroko of that timeline, that's when the Takumi of that timeline comes to after being possessed by the Gi, and starts attacking the Takumi from this timeline because he's the one that's there and all the buzzsaw and all that stuff. So it's very interesting stuff. But we learned that like the Hiroko from my timeline said like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. I gave the Hiroko of that timeline the way to fix the Takumi of that timeline. End up she lied, because what actually happened is she actually used the program that would cure Takumi of the Gi data. She used it to cure Eito of his feelings, because in another route we get to the killing game route where there's an Eito, but in order to get to the killing game route you have to kill Eito. But in the killing game route there's an Eito there, but that Eito came from the box of calamity route, so he was able to time leap over there, which was great. So because that explained one of the endings of the killing game routes, or some of the endings. So, and he's like, I just always wanted to be friends with you guys. Like, he said something, and what made Hiroko be like, all right, so we're going to fix the Eito of our timeline so that you can actually fight with us. And then Sirei and Nigo kind of like reveal that, like, oh, wait, we didn't give her an extra one or whatever. So then, as they're trying to get the liver mortis codes, which is something that we've learned in the mystery route, by the way. I kind of glossed over that. The liver mortis codes are codes that appear on the 10 students who showed up at the Defense Academy beforehand. Or the first 10 that showed up at the Defense Academy, that like when they enter total death, as in there's no way they can be revived, a number will appear on their body. When 9 of those numbers get entered into the transmitter down there, an escape pod will come down and you can all go home type thing. Or the survivor can go home. Talk more about that later. So now they're going to timelines where characters are dead so they can escape that. So it's either they go to the coming of age route where Darumi is dead to get her liver mortis codes, because Takumi remembered the liver mortis codes that the Kakoji in the mystery timeline learned, because she was after them as well, and she got 5 of them. She got Edo, Gaku's, Kako's from that timelines, and Shoma's and Tsubasa's. So she got 5 of them. And then, so our first choice is, do we go to the coming of age route to do the thing, or do we do what Takumi wants and go to the timeline where do we go to the timeline where that Takumi is still alive or still possessed? So when you pick the go to the timeline that Takumi's possessed, that's where we actually make the zombie route. So that's how the zombie route becomes to be. And that's why that one ending is called history repeating, is because that Takumi was possessed by a Gi beforehand, but then he got rid of the possession and then he got possessed again, which is very interesting. But as a result, when we come back, we learn that there was a hole in Takumi's suit. Now, this would be the second time that Takumi has traveled on the leap machine without a suit on. He did it the first time before the split, and this would be the second time. So he suffered leap damage, is what it's called, twice, which if you suffered it 2 or 3 or 4 times, you basically die, is what it is. So as a result, he passes out, and it's like, what are we going to do? So eventually we get another choice of, do we stay, because we're about to go into a fight. Do I fight or do I not fight? Depends on what happens. You know, then you got another choice and some other choices. So the first ending I did not like is the Academy destroyed one. So the whole liver motors code thing was all a bunch of bullshit. It was actually part of the stand together or fall together program, where it's a whole like, well, if all but one of you die, fuck it, we're just gonna have you all blow up anyway. So the liver motors codes don't do that. The liver motors codes don't bring a escape pod for you to go back to our official satellite. It actually just blows up the entire school, which is like one of the reasons why I don't like it, is because like, oh, it's just a weird thing like that. The coward's final day. So eventually, the Kako G from the mystery route actually escaped at the end and came to this timeline where Nozomi gets hit by a meteorite and becomes a variant, which is important to the Gis for whatever reason. So Kako kidnaps her. And I believe this is... So, I can't remember. I think it's a choice of you do all the fighting and then... Because you have two battles, and in both of the battles you do the fight. And then you get another choice of, because Kako G... but as a result of doing the fight, I pass out for days. So then when I wake up, Hiroko takes me on a tour and be like, hey, this is what happened beforehand. When we get back to the cafeteria where everyone but Nozomi, because Nozomi's in her room, Kako G kills 5 of the characters, or however many of the characters, I can't remember. And then you chase after her. And I believe the coward's final days is what happens when your next choice is, do you go after her and risk leap damage again, or do you wait? I believe that's what happens, is you wait and you lose Kako G, and there you go. Actually, no, this is before the battle. It's before the final battle of the Vesh Nest. That's what happens. That's right. That's right. So this is what happens when you decide not to do the leap, not to go to the leap. You lose sight of Kako G, because Kako G is like, oh, I have a spaceship in this area, but I guess we don't have it in this timeline. So she jumps to a timeline where it could be, and she takes Nozomi with her or whatever. But they're running out of time because they only have a certain number of a window. So Takumi's like, well, were you going to let me fight in the battle anyway? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, then I'll stay here and you can go back. But he never finds her. So that's why I don't like this ending. Revenge of Kako G. So when we get the liver motus codes, our next choice is, hey, Hiroko's going to flip a coin. Call heads or tails. If you get it right, we're going to do this thing. If you get it wrong, we do nothing. This is what happens when he gets it wrong. So then they talk about a whole, like, there's a timeline where you guessed it right. So they're going to come here to our timeline. And we're going to come up to a strategy to find the 3 more liver Morse codes that we have left. which is awesome. So they do that, and then the wrong guest timeline goes to their timeline, but it's a very short window again. But because Takumi did something that resulted in being late, after they were done with the exchanging information, they weren't able to leap back. When they were able to leap back, they got back to the school and found that everyone died because of Kakoji. Just because everyone died, that's why I don't like that ending. One massacre to another. This is the final choice of the route. So Hirako had suffered leap damage twice now because we went to show the group about because we told the group about hey, we have a way to escape with this liver mortis codes. That didn't happen. So as a result, Takumi's no, I'm not doing it, and I can prove it. So then they take everyone to that timeline where it was destroyed. And when they went back to their timeline, the suit that Hirako had a hole. So she suffered leap damage. So we go through the rest of it. So we're oh, we can't escape this timeline. It's well, there's a timeline where we're all dead with a working escape pod. So they go to that timeline, but Hirako suffers leap damage again because there's the one suit with the hole and she'd rather be the one to take it than anyone else. I know these were literally the last endings I had, so I'm trying my best not to explain them too much, but so then the final choice is Hirako is do you either run to the escape pod or do you go down to the basement and enter the liver mortis codes to blow up this thing and prevent the residents of the planets being destroyed. This is what happens when you go and run to the escape pod. You get to the escape pod. It's very somber because everyone on the planet died. Ava gets free of her brainwashing, and she's I'm going to kill everyone on that artificial satellite, which is fucking baller. And funny enough, this was my final ending I got to, by the way, which was fantastic. A form of suicide. Now, do you remember in the slasher route that there was a place where I died? That was all bullshit. So, again, there's a choice where Takumi goes and tries to fix. This is what happens when I don't do a fight, and it learns that, and this is where we learned that the Takumi that we cured wasn't the right Takumi. It's the one that was in the zombie or resulted in the zombie. So we went here to the right one, and as we were about to kill Takumi, I don't do it. I failed to do it, but then the Gi takes over, kills me instead, replaces me, and that Takumi goes around killing everyone. And that's why in that one route where Nozomi learns who the killer is, she's surprised that's Takumi, and that's ooh, that's a very good one. So I really liked that. That's why it's very high up on this too. The cursed cycle. This is what happens when we jumped after Kakoji, and this is what happens when we jump after Kakoji and we come back. We learn that there's a lady in white. Don't know who that is about, being completely honest. Then we come back and we do the fight, I think. Or no, this is the result of us not doing the fight. We don't do the fight here. So then eventually Takumi remembers that hey, there's a timeline where everyone on this timeline who's dead is alive, but everyone who's alive on this timeline is dead on that timeline. Go take everyone here to there so that they can survive type thing. And that's what results at the ending of ending 100. And that's so good, and I really like that. The Scent of Lavender is the one where we participate in the battle afterwards, which is my next favorite one, if I am looking at this correctly. Yes. Actually, I probably should switch this too, if I'm being honest. The Scent of Lavender is, Takumi participates and he dies in the arms of Hirako, which is really nice. And my favorite ending of this route is all 17 of us everyone survives. We prevented the planet from, being raised by the Undying Flame bombs. This is what happens when we chose to go to the basement. Shion and everyone stops us and like, oh, Tsubasa prevented the escape pod from launching early. And Shion will be the one to press the final button to destroy the bombs and all that stuff. So, it's really awesome. Really good ending. The reason why this is my second route is because there's two things. One, we learned two things in this route that doesn't really get a resolution. I mentioned a lady in white who because in the route where Takumi stabs Kakoji or follows Kakoji without the suit, he's able to immobilize her, but he passes out. And Hiroko, shows up and, catches up. And, they kill the gi inside of the Kako there. But when Takumi passes out, Hiroko says, yeah, a lady in a white coat showed up, healed up Kako, and then just walked away with her. It's like, okay, that's weird. Maybe we'll learn about her in another part of this. We never do. She does get brought up, though. Because in the route where we gotta make the baby jar, Takumi and Hiroko go to the coming of age route to find the right materials. And Hiroko's like, yeah, I found a lady in white and she gave me two things. The material we needed and this memory card. This memory card will help for this machine that goes horizontal and vertical or whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And I don't know. But guess what? Doesn't fucking matter because that never gets brought up again either. So we have this lady in white who was like, what the fuck are you? And then we get this memory card that's like, what the fuck does that do? So it's like, what the fuck? It is what it is. It's annoying and it sucks. But let me know. Did I miss something with that? Did I miss something with the lady in white and the memory card? Let me know. I'm recording this before I upload the final parts, by the way. So I have issues with that there too. Another thing I also have issues with this route is Commune. Commune is never brought up except for on the one massacre to another route. Because Ava got back her memories and she's like, I had a daughter and she's dead now because the planet got raised. Well, because of that, I'm going to kill everyone. That's the only time Commune ever gets brought up. Which, I mean, makes sense because the timelines that you needed to unlock the story locks of this route, none of them involved Commune at all. Granted, we go to the killing game route where Commune is brought up, but yeah. Which, by the way, so they weren't able to prevent the final attack in their timeline, and their escape pod was busted. So they moved to the killing game route timeline. They went to the route where everyone was dead. Now, unless I'll talk about this later. I'll talk about this in a little bit because the killing game route is my favorite route of the games here. But there's an ending where everyone dies during the final attack with Veshness. And I'm pretty sure Commune dies there too. And that's the timeline that we went on. We went on the timeline where everyone dies. We didn't go on the timeline where people are alive. So that's the whole, there. So, but then it's like Shion also died in that part of the timeline. But then also, I guess the people on the artificial satellite came down and put in another clone of Shion that could fill up the rest of the missiles, and that's what resulted in all that stuff. So, unless Commune is not dead in that battle, which maybe she's not, I don't know. I kind of hope she's not, but I'm pretty sure I thought Commune also died in that ending, which again we'll talk about in a little bit here. Again, could be wrong, but actually I don't think I am, because I think it's actually called A Cruel End for Commune, unless that's a different thing. I'll talk about that later. So, But yeah, that's why I'm not a bit... I like this route because of the premise, but it leaves... What the fuck's that memory card? Who the fuck is this lady in white? And Commune's dead, which sucks. Granted, like, it sucks, so... Yeah. Alright. We reached the 3-hour mark. I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as I can. I probably didn't need to spend too much time on the, the SF route as I did, but, well, because it literally happened in the last few parts, I digress. So as I mentioned, my favorite route is the killing game route because, don't get me wrong, I do like the all 17 of us ending in the SF route. This route actually has my favorite ending of all time. I actually really like this ending the most out of all the endings. It's my number 1 ending. My number 2 ending probably would be the all 17 of us, and then it would be the coming of age 1, and then it would be the second scenario, farewell last defense academy. So those are my top 4 endings right there. Killing game route. So in the route where Gaku's dead and then your next choice is, do you play a killing game? We say yes. We learn that there's sponsor, who we learn is Kako G, which is great. And I don't know where these bees came from. I'll be honest, the bees never get brought up, but it's not that big of a deal if I'm being honest. They might just be something Kako-G made. So it's a whole killing game thing. So or the invader hunt, as they call it. It's the hunt timeline. So in the hunt timeline, they have everyone, it's basically a whole, hey, pick a, you gotta kill invaders, and whoever is at the bottom of the list at the end of the deadline dies, and whatever. And she takes their crypto globin. And I think it gets revealed that, there's more sponsors after we kill a sponsor. But it's probably because those sponsors get replaced by the dead bodies because they're possessed by the geese that possess the dead bodies. And all that stuff. Which is pretty interesting. But eventually we do get rid of Kako-G, but then eventually sponsor shows up again, who is later to be revealed as 803, which is kind of great, hilarious in a way. So, in terms of endings, my least favorite ending in the killing game route is the good as dead one, or as good as dead. I believe your next choice is Yugamu offers to help you, and you say no, and then you just die, which really sucks. Not the best. Round 1 loser. I can't remember what the exact choice was. I think we left. I think this was the choice of leaving, to either go save Hiroko and Darumi, or I can't remember who it was that we had to save, but instead of saving them, we say no, and as a result, Takumi dies. So I was like, oh, okay. But I mean, it makes sense. Escaping your fate. Now, during this timeline, Tsubasa and Takumi actually start to develop, actually have a relationship being developed, which is really great. And I think that's probably one of my favorite ones. And in the SF route, and to be fair, in the SF route, it's kind of because Hiroko and Takumi also kind of develop a relationship too, which is really sweet. But the way that Tsubasa and Takumi build a relationship in this one, I think it's so sweet and it feels so authentic. It's just great, and I loved it all around. In the escaping your fate route, at some point Tsubasa falls below at the bottom. The sponsor, who is the Edo sponsor, gives us a hint like, hey, I can give you a map that will give you lots of points if you want to do it. So, and your choice is saying no. You have to say yes to get more endings, but saying no results in this ending. But what they do is they just run away. Tsubasa and Takumi just run away with the school bus, and they think they get far enough, but as you see there, they did not. So it really sucked. 5. Battle for Ava's points. So you get more points if you kill commanders, but the whole thing is you can't kill commanders inside the school grounds. It doesn't count. Obviously, Ava was already on school grounds, so of course everyone was like, we're going to take you. But of course, at some point, you know, Nozomi develops kind of a, kind of like a parent-child bond with Ava, because she absorbed some of her cryptoglobin so that she could survive, type thing. So then eventually, we let Ava free, and then we find her again, and the point is like, we either let her die or we don't let her die. This is what happens if we don't let her die, without Nozomi killing her or something. But without killing her, by detonating a button, because I believe Nozomi was at the bottom of the rankings at this point, or Tsubasa was at the bottom of the rankings. I can't remember. No, it was Nozomi. So this was the way to build Nozomi's points up. And then eventually, you know, we find Commune, and because she also gives us a way to find Commune, and that's when, like, you know, we keep Commune hidden. We learned that the escape pod is broken, but we learned it at a quick enough time that we are able to fix it. And it's great. Which is great because I believe this is also the timeline where the Takumi from the SF timeline, that's where they find the QB liquid, and that's where they get the QB liquid is on this timeline. Is from them. So that's like kind of what results in them getting, you know, close to good endings there, and to fix the escape pod that they eventually needed to use to escape anyway. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, this is where I first found Commune. And I really liked her. You know, she was kind of like, you know, somewhat high and mighty, but then eventually, like, Nozomi sees her as a little sister, and, you know, they develop such a nice relationship. And I really liked how Commune was portrayed in this route, in all the other routes, because of, I think, of how early she was portrayed and everything else. It was just great. It was an overall great one. So, but yeah, I really like that. So, Battle for Ava's points. Number 4, the Academy Falls. So at some point, we're teaming up with some of the other characters, and we get in the fight with Nugwe, and Moko says, like, hey, I'm going to sacrifice myself. And we're like, no, we'll fight with you. So we keep Moko, and it takes us so long to finally beat the commander that the school falls. So it's like, oh. Granted, this one, now that I think about this one probably should have been much lower than it is. I don't know why I have this one higher than some of these, but oh well. No big deal. A cruel end for Commune. If I remember, I can't remember what the choice was that led to this, but eventually the sponsor learned of Commune and had her killed, I believe. And Nozomi also died. So yeah, not good. Not good at all. So close yet so far. I don't know why this is my second one. So the final choice you have here is you either kill Shion or you don't kill Shion. You say yeah. This is after the whole killing games are done. Edo has been killed by Tsubasa, by, you know, how they were able to, you know, circumvent the rules that he set out. And so, but in order to get enough fuel for the escape pod to go, we need cryptoglobin, and the cryptoglobin we're gonna get is gonna be from Shion. But in order to do that, so it's like, okay. So Shion's like, I will only allow you to kill me is if you don't get on the escape pod, Takumi. So he's like, okay, I promise. Well, Takumi lies. He gets on the escape pod, and as a result, he's like, nah, the escape pod's not going. Sorry, not sorry. And then Veshnitz comes and attacks, and yeah, that's what happens. And then my favorite ending, Hope from Despair. As I mentioned earlier, this is a route where Takumi and Tsubasa develop a relationship. But we also learn a lot about Darumi in this one. We learn about Darumi so much so that she actually gets, like, Tsubasa, Darumi, Yugamu, and Takumi kind of become a couple. Like, all four of them are a couple. I mean, Tsubasa's dating both Darumi and Takumi, and Takumi's somewhat dating Yugamu with Tsubasa, and Darumi's only just dating Tsubasa, and Takumi hates Darumi because Tsubasa's first kiss was with Darumi because she needs to prove how she really cares about Darumi and all that stuff. And it's great setup, and it's really great. So they talk about how, you know, when Takumi's in his funk after killing the innocent Futurums. I mean, we didn't learn that there are Futurums here. At least I don't think so. Or maybe we did with Commune. I can't remember. But when we learn about that, like, Takumi's in a funk, and then he's like, hey, and then Tsubasa comes and be like, hey, we gotta get out of this so that, you know, the four of us can go and live together. Which is also, like, you know, the choice that leads to this is by not killing Shion, by not killing the baby. And the reason why Shion's like, I can't let you get on the ship is because you're a murderer, because you killed those innocent people and all that stuff. So, and I can't exactly remember. I think when Veshness came and attacked, they were able to beat her, and that's what they used to escape the ship. And as you see, Nozomi's holding the baby jar with Shion, and they were able to bring him along too, which was great. And Commune's there too, and I just really like this ending a lot. It was so good and so fantastic. So, whew, boy, this is definitely a long one. This is as long as I fucking streamed video, you guys. Holy hell. I think this is going to be released on Thursday. This video is definitely going to be released in the later slot of that day. Holy fuck. Guys, thank you all. I hope you watch this video. Just because, again, I want this to be a massive discussion of some of the stuff. Like, again, if there's anything I missed, did I miss anything? Did Commune actually die in that so close yet so far ending? Because if she didn't die, then I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with how all 17 of us ending went, because then Commune is alive on that timeline, which is great. Did I miss anything about that memory card? That woman in white? Did I miss anything about, I can't remember the other thing I kind of mentioned. Whatever. Does that open up the door for DLC? Yes. I definitely would be interested to know what DLC would look like for this game. I also would hate the fact that, like, oh, Kadaka and the team just kind of forgot about that lady in white and that memory card thing. But I digress. Again, unless I missed something with that. And same with, God, I can't remember what the other thing is that I was like, did I miss something with this? But I can't remember. But either way, guys, let me know. Please, let's have a nice discussion in the comments about this, because this is a fantastic game. And as I said in the last video, there will never be another game like this. I don't think in a long time. Much like 13 Sentinels and how 13 Sentinels is set up, which is, again, funny. I know I've compared this to 13 Sentinels, but, like, their premises are unique, but also somewhat similar in a way. It's like there's no wrong way to play this game, as there's no wrong way to play 13 Sentinels. But, like, there's locks that prevent you from doing stuff until you do the stuff to unlock them. But just also like how the story is told in both of these games. How it's told in 13 Sentinels is fantastic. I can't even mention anything about that without spoiling it, which I will never going to do that. I'm never going to do that, no matter how old that game is. I will never do that. But like how this game also told its story too, especially how the SF route kind of answered so many of the other questions that were left. Like, it explained who the original sponsor was in the Killing game, because we never learned who that is. It learned, I mean, granted, it's one of those things that, like, if you paid attention during the Box of Calamity route, when at some point you learn that the Edo from there went to a different timeline. It's like, oh, is that the Edo that showed up in the Killing Game route? Depends on the order. If you play the Killing Game route first, before Box of Calamity, if you play Box of Calamity first, you're like, I wonder. And then when you played the Killing Game route, you see Edo there. It's like, oh, is that the Edo from there or whatever? So, and it does so many good things like that. And then again, the whole, like, the Takumi Gi kills the Takumi that came into the past or who went to the leap and all that stuff. It's just worked out so well, you know, of all that stuff. But then again, you have shit like that memory card and the woman in white, and if Commune is actually dead in the SF route that has the best ending in my opinion. So, the best ending of that route. It's my second favorite ending. My first ending being this one. The SF, the all 17 one could be my favorite one if Commune's alive, but without confirmation, unless of course the so close yet so far ending. I'm going to. Maybe Commune is alive because I think she just stayed in the school. But then it's like, where's she at then? Where did she go? Did she just like go back to her village thinking like, well, the final attack won't launch anyway? It'd be nice if like maybe she stayed at the school to be like, well, I'll just go on the escape pod or whatever. So, I don't know. Again, let me know anything about this. Guys, thank you so much. If you watched this whole video, let me know how you felt about these routes. Let me know which one was your first route. Let me know what your last route was. Let me know what your first ending was, what your last ending was. Anything. I leave it all to you at the bottom of the comments. Whew. Alright guys, thank you all for watching this video. Guys, if you like the video, please give a like button, click, comment down below, like about the video, dislike about the video, and let me know, guys, like I said, what's your favorite route? What's your least favorite route? Why is that your favorite route? Why is that your least favorite route? Which one was your first ending? Which was your last ending? Did you even get all 100 endings? If you did not, why the fuck are you watching this video then? Let me know, and all that stuff. And as always, guys, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a beat. And subscribe to the main channel too. That's in the description below. As well as follow me on Twitter. Both my main Twitter, the RBG Kim Kid Twitter, are in there too. So what's next, guys? Well, tomorrow is Friday, if I'm doing all this stuff correctly. I believe I am. That's the release of Trails in the Sky FC remake. That will be my next playthrough. The good news is there is a demo that's out. So I'll be... the first few parts will probably be on that. I did, unfortunately, have to order the game via Amazon. I think it should be arriving on Monday. Here's hoping that I get on that day, too. I'm still having issues with my mailbox where I don't have the key to my mailbox, and they're replacing the, key and all that stuff, and it's take 30 days, which should be getting pretty close to that. It's either going to happen during this week or next week. We'll see. I don't know if I have to talk to the people at the post office to see if they updated, or I don't even know if they'll knock on my door, be like, hey, we've done this already, or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. Or maybe I'll contact my friend who put the request in. I don't know. Maybe I'll ask him at some point or whatever. Or maybe I'll just have people, whatever. Yeah. So that'll be the next playthrough is Trails in the Sky FC. Very excited to play that game. Very excited to play it. So yeah. Thank you all, and as always, guys, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a beat, and subscribe to the main channel too. That's in the description below. As well as follow me on Twitter. Both my main Twitter, the RBG Kim Kid Twitter, in there too. I'm pretty sure I've already said this, but I don't care. Thank you all so much for watching once again, and I'll see you all in Trails in the Sky FC. Can't wait, and I hope you guys enjoyed this game, enjoyed this series. This is definitely my longest series in terms of length, not in terms of parts, but in terms of length. In terms of length parts is still held by Persona 5. Even with this video still held by Persona 5. But with this video, this is for sure now my longest series. Let's Play series. Yeah, if we're talking Let's Play series, as in no live stream series, because I am 100% certain that Final Fantasy 14 is still my longest Let's Play series, or my longest series in general. Considering I have 80 streams of that game, and majority of them are over 3 hours. Majority of them and there's one that's like 7 hours or 6 hours. I digress, guys. All right, guys. Take care. And see you guys in FC. Bye.